This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second part of what if Naruto's Saiyan Bloodline was sealed at birth. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Sarutobi was taken aback by what Naruto had brought him. He surmised that Naruto had either been training or engaged in combat because he was still in Super Saiyan. "How did you get this guy?" he asked. "When I left Vegeta's and Lee's house, this idiot and 3 of his friends attempted to attack me, saying, 'Come with us or face the wrath of Danzo.' Sama." Naruto said, "Come with us. I assume that their leader is this Danzo jerk." After a brief chuckle, the Sandaime gritted his teeth and said, "All right, did they give you anything else?" "No," Naruto said. "I doubt I'll be able to question him. I believe you ought to hire a professional to handle that. The Yondaime put an end to them years ago, but I should have expected Danzo to go behind my back. Before I do anything about that, though, I have to get more evidence to bring Danzo down," the Sandaime said, staring at the man in horror. Hiruzen Sarutobi responded, "I can get a specialist to interrogate this guy, but the case will be stronger if you can get more witnesses." Say no more. Naruto hurried out of the office, flew to where he battled the guys to see them get up, and used the shadow clone jutsu to create 4 clones, which then flew to the ground, encircling the fake Anbu 5 feet away so that when they woke up, they would have nowhere to go. Naruto was in the air, waiting for one of them to jump to the rooftops, ready to take them out. One of the guys said, "We must report this to Danzo." Sama, after waking up and discovering that one of their own was gone. "Yes, he can take over Fire Country with that demon in his hands," said another man. When one of Naruto's clones said, "Think again," they turned to see a smirking Naruto emerge from the alley to their left. The Anbu responded, "Whatever. You're only one person. You caught us off guard last time." The other Narutos were gathering energy while that Naruto was speaking. They gave the talking clone a nod when it was finished, indicating that they were prepared. "Well, it seems I caught you off guard again. Now," said the talking clone. Anticipating an attack, the phony Anbu leapt to their feet. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, there was no attack. The 3 Anbu believed they were safe when there was no attack, but they were free, floating in the air and did not anticipate an attack. 3 strong power blitzes struck them, knocking them unconscious. With the assistance of 2 clones, Naruto went to retrieve them. Then he took off for the Hokage's office. Naruto placed them in a pile on the Hokage's desk and said, "Here's the other guys." Sarutobi replied, "Thanks, Naruto. I've been suspecting something dirty about Danzo. Now I have some proof. Anyway, I think you better go home. You got a high C rank mission tomorrow that I know will escalate in difficulty. The only reason I ranked it as a C rank is because I was gonna give it to your team and I know you can protect your other teammates, or pull them out if Kakashi started acting crazy again." Naruto replied, "You can count on me, old man. I'll protect the team." Sarutobi replied, "Also, Naruto. If you guys get in over your head, but the others refuse to back out, then come back alone and I'll send another team with you to the mission." Naruto replied, "Don't worry, I got it. Man, if you keep doing this, I'll start to get the idea that you don't trust me. According to the Hokage, it's not you, it's Kakashi. I know. But like you said, I better get to bed soon. See ya," Naruto exclaimed before hurriedly leaving the room and taking off for his home. Once more, he saw that the area had been looted by the villagers. Naruto simply went to his bed after saying, "I'll clean it up later." He changed into boxers and a black undershirt before falling asleep. The following day, at 6 in the morning the following day, Naruto was rested and ready for combat. He began a training program after flying in the direction of the underground lab. Naruto came to the realization that he had never really altered the machine's gravity. He landed on his butt after setting the gravity to 3 times. He got up and completed his training 10 minutes later. To speed up his blocking, he summoned some of the robots and had them shoot him at random intervals. And then he made them attack him. He made his body begin to adjust to 3x. He was moving quickly, but not nearly as quickly as he had previously. Naruto then proceeded to the central console and created his own program. He had a steel wall made by the GR. Then Naruto would test his strength by attacking it. After retreating from the wall, Naruto used a power blitz to blast it. Halfway through, he discovered that the wall was 3 inches thick. Naruto persisted in doing this, boosting the force of his blows until he eventually tore down the wall. To blast through a 3-inch thick steel wall, he needed to exert a lot of energy. When Naruto saw that, he understood that he would need to significantly boost his energy in order to use these attacks as effectively as his ancestors. After experiencing the effects of 1G, Naruto departed the GR. Being unweighted felt good, but exiting 3x and returning to normal gravity felt really strange. Naruto left the GR and made his way to the surface. He watched Lee train with his team at Team Guy's training ground. He was evading Tenten's attacks, as if to test his new body. Naruto had heard that Tenten was a master of kunai. It was said that she could hit a fly on a tree 20 meters away with a kunai and the fly would still be alive. Naruto instantly brushed that off as bullshit when he heard it. But now that he saw her, he knew the rumors were accurate. She got along well with kunai. Lee surmised that she was deliberately missing to avoid hurting him after she nearly struck him. When a significant event, such as the Chunin exams, was approaching, it wouldn't be beneficial to impale your teammate. Naruto noticed that Lee and Neji were getting along much better after the mini-tournament. He surmised that Neji removed the fate stick from his ass because of what Lee had told him. In reality, Neji was becoming someone you could go out in public with without feeling ashamed. He was still in charge when Guy wasn't present, but he wasn't as strict as he once was. He had to be a little strict as a result. Naruto realized he had to be at the North Gate in 5 minutes, so he left after speaking with Lee for a while. He was at Konoha's southernmost point. Naruto sprinted to the North Gate and arrived there simultaneously with Kakashi. Naruto and Sasuke began to leave, but he didn't say anything to Sakura or Kakashi. He and Sasuke were chatting the whole time, ignoring the two slackers behind them. Naruto asked Sasuke a question just before he went to bed later that day. "Hey Sasuke. What happened to you in Wave? Before the battle at the bridge, you never were this cool. You were always a whiny little prick. What happened to you to change your ways?" Sasuke let out a sigh. He continued, "What I'm about to tell you is something I haven't told anyone, Naruto. On the bridge, I almost died. When I took that hit for you, all I could see around me was white. The white light was all I could see. When it faded, I was in this huge grassy field. It was grass as far as the eye could see. I looked around and saw that 3 people were walking toward me. I asked them who they were, but they didn't answer me back. I was about to ask them again, but by then they were close enough for me to see them. One guy wore an orange and blue variant of what you're wearing right now, except the headband. But with him were some people I thought I never would see again." After hearing Sasuke's words, Naruto thought, "Goku. Who did he have with him?" Naruto asked. "You're never going to believe this, but it was my parents," Sasuke said, closing his eyes. "What?" asked Naruto. In response to Naruto's laughter at the name Sasu-chan, Sasuke said, "It was my parents, Naruto. And before you say something else, I know it was them. Dead or alive, I'd know my father and mother's faces anywhere. I was as surprised as you. I thought I was dreaming, until my mom said, 'Hello again, Sasu-chan.'" "Shut up." Sasuke continued his justification. "My dad said he was disappointed in me, and my mom claimed she was watching me from where she was. She also made up that nickname for me and would only call me that. I initially believed it was because I hadn't murdered Itachi. However, he later claimed that it was because I persisted in pursuing Itachi. Something I believed would never happen," he admitted. "What Itachi did was to help me," he said. "I shouldn't continue this pointless quest to kill Itachi," he advised. "He advised me to cherish my life, my friendships, and my happiness. According to him, humility and kindness are virtues, while pride and envy are vices. Instead of ruining my life by pursuing Itachi, I should enjoy it. My life will be in Itachi's hands as long as I pursue him." What took place next? The response came from a curious Naruto. "They said they ran out of time," Sasuke remarked. "After promising to always love me, they departed with the man. After that, you revived me. Why don't you pursue Itachi anymore?" said Naruto. "I'm not going to chase Itachi anymore because I don't need to," declared Sasuke. "I doubt that I pursued Itachi in order to exact revenge on my clan. I wanted my father to recognize me, so I did it. Although he never had time for me, my father was always complimenting Itachi. I think I needed evidence, some way to convince myself that my father would love me, even though I know he did. I believe that because Itachi was so strong, I secretly believed that he would finally recognize me if I outstripped him and demonstrated my strength. I simply felt complete when he said it there, as if the piece of me that I needed to move on with my life had finally come together. That's just the way it is, even though I realize it sounds cheesy and like a weak excuse." "It sounds like something from a soap opera," Naruto remarked. "I swear, that nearly made me cry. Almost. If you truly want to cry, listen to Simple Plana S.A. Perfect, a Linkin Park S.A. Pushing Me Away, or Nickelback S.A. If Everyone Cared. You can hear all the emotion that goes into them." "I know," said Sasuke. "However, Naruto, we had better go to bed because tomorrow is going to be a difficult day." I know, said Naruto. Salutations, Sasu-chan. After giving Naruto a fierce look, Sasuke fell asleep. The following day. Sakura refused to wake up, so the guys got a late start the following day. She remained asleep until Sasuke set fire to her tent, revealing that she had slept naked. She was obviously embarrassed, but even more so when she learned that Naruto had taken pictures. She attempted to take some, but was unable to locate them, and Naruto assured her that he would never return the photos. Sakura then gritted her teeth and continued walking down the road, followed by her team. When they arrived at the village, they found it in ruins, with broken windows, burned-out houses, and trash all over the road. Knowing that they would need help, Naruto remained silent and followed Kakashi as they circled the village, searching for anyone. A man threw a rock at them, but it missed, and the man was in a shaded alley. They followed him, and he led them into a dilapidated building. Naruto became alert and prepared for anything. Thank goodness Konoha got my message, the man said as they entered the building. Nikao is my name. One of the few individuals battling the bandits is me. Naruto took the initiative to ask, why did the bandits come here, after Kakashi remained silent. I don't know, Nikao said. This village belongs to the Golden Dragons, they declared, and then they began destroying everything. They eliminated our police force and killed the mayor. We were helpless when they began breaking into people's homes and kidnapping them. We were unable to stop them. I thought I busted their operation in Wind Country, Naruto said, narrowing his eyes, but then again, there weren't that many people there, and Tamari said there were hundreds. Perhaps it's a multinational crime group, and the leader was in Suna at the time. That's probably why the Suna siblings believed that if they destroyed that place, they would destroy the organization. Who was their leader? Murasama was the man's name, Nikao stated. He claimed to be from the Hidden Rain Village and was a missing nin. Another man who claimed to be the new leader of something was also present. He claimed that the former leader, Teizeki, was slain in Wind Country. Teizeki, said Kakashi. How did he end up? Are you a friend of his? Nikao asked, squinting his eyes. Teizeki is the one who took Kakashi's eye when he was 13, Naruto stated. Although he survived the attack, Kakashi believed his teammate had murdered him 13 years prior. Oh, Nikao said. I apologize, Naruto replied, it's like this organization's is filled with missing nin. It is, Nikao stated. Tanbo Tanbataki was the man's name. He mentioned assuming control of the Wind Country industry. According to Naruto, he might be one of the leaders. What? Said Nikao. What you just said validates my guess, Naruto said. The Golden Dragons are this criminal organization. They are a global criminal organization. Kakashi remarked. How are you aware? I was over in Wind Country some time back, Naruto remarked. I assisted the children of the Cage in chasing out some bandits who had taken over a nearby city. The Golden Dragons were the group's name. Teizeki was their leader. After that, I killed Teizeki. You killed Teizeki? Asked Kakashi. Please, you couldn't defeat him. He was an Iwagakure Junin. Well, I did, Naruto said. In addition to that, I killed him. He was a Junin, but that doesn't mean a Genin can't beat them. You mentioned that there were young children in Wave Country who were just as strong as you, didn't you? Naruto hinted that if Kakashi persisted in pushing him, he could beat him. Knowing the hidden meaning behind Naruto's words, Kakashi refused to back down and said, well, the Junin have more experience in jutsu than a mere Genin has, so the Genin wouldn't stand a chance. Indeed. How about a few days ago, when we were on our way to Wave? You couldn't defeat a hunter.nin like Zabuza, but I managed to defeat him, Naruto shot back. Naruto retorted, anyway, the Suna siblings claimed that they abducted hundreds of people. Kakashi had no response to that. Additionally, I only demolished one building, so the organization must be much larger than I initially believed. Oh god, Nikao said. We're doomed. No, we're here to help, Sasuke said. For you, we'll stop them. Says Nikao. Thank you. No problem, said Naruto. At what point do we attack them? We usually attack around midnight, Nikao stated. We attack and attempt to question a few of their members, but we are always defeated. We never see one of us again after they are taken as hostages. Because they fear that their families will die, people are reluctant to fight back. With his teeth clenched in rage, Naruto said, don't worry. They will be the ones losing this battle by midnight tonight. Midnight Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi, Nikao, and the other rebels were hiding around the city bar, which had 5 guards outside and many more inside. Naruto kept an eye on them and noticed that while the others in the bar were getting wasted, the 5 outside remained sober to keep an eye out for the rebels. Before the internal rebel was killed, He informed them that the bandits were required to take a breathalyzer test after each drink to check their health. If the test resulted in a .08, they were shut off for the night. This was done because the human body can filter out .04 alcohol in an hour, so they would be ready to fight in 2 hours. There are always some clean people to deter a fight if one breaks out. The double agent was also able to tell them that there were over 300 bandits. That would cause a problem, seeing as there were only 20 other rebels. When Naruto heard that news, he thought, "This is bad. We can't fight an entire army by ourselves. We'll definitely need help if we have to fight all those guys." But Naruto was able to come up with a plan. They all attack head-on, the ninja go first, then the rebels. The rebels would stand back and do minimal fighting. If they were in trouble, they would call a ninja to help them. Once the ninja knocked out 3 people each, they'd take them and retreat. No questions asked. The rebels would retreat first, then the ninja would go, throwing smoke bombs to hide their trail. The ninja would also take off their headbands, so if they were captured, their village couldn't be tied to this. Sasuke had to ditch his Uchiha clan jacket for a white shirt so that if he was captured, he couldn't be traced back to Konoha. Kakashi had to use a black headband he kept with him for his Sharingan eye, but it didn't matter because if Kakashi was captured, the village would have been tied into it anyway. The rebels also wore black masks so they wouldn't be recognized in the fight. They were all stationed by the bar, and it was 1 minute until midnight. They would storm the place, grab 3 people, and flee once midnight rang. It was easy, but they needed to gather information first. Naruto held out his watch to check the time. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everyone started running toward the building at precisely 12 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds, with Naruto and Sasuke in front, followed by Kakashi, Sakura, and the rebels. When one of the guards heard them approaching, he charged, and Naruto and Sasuke continued to run toward him, rolling under his right punch while still aiming for the others behind him. Kakashi then leapt forward and began fighting the man, and Naruto and Sasuke split up right away, fighting their own 2 guards. The bandits were like cockroaches. They were always in groups, and 10 would follow wherever one was. Unfortunately for them, Naruto and Sasuke were 2 of the Leaf Village's toughest genin, so Naruto dodged one bandit's punch and then the other sword twice before allowing them to hit him. The bandit didn't even punch harder than Sakura, and the sword broke on contact with Naruto's skin. Naruto took advantage of their shocked states and attacked them viciously, knocking them out with 2 punches. Sasuke had to put in a little more effort, though, because he was not as strong as Naruto, even though he was just as quick at dodging. In order to put them to sleep, Sasuke had to send 2 kicks to their head. Kakashi had taken care of his person and tossed him, and the other 4 were given to the rebels, who instructed them to take them to the hideout and wait for the other ninja. 5 rebels were relieved to be nearly halfway through the mission. Although Naruto knew it would be difficult, he sighed and walked in front of the door, looking at Sasuke and asking, "What should we do to announce ourselves?" after noticing a group of bandits drinking and lounging in the window. "Great Ash breakthrough combo?" smirked Sasuke. While grinning, Naruto remarked, "I like the way you think, Sasuke." In case Sasuke ever needed to use the attack, Naruto also taught him the wind style, Great Breakthrough Jutsu, during their training. Naruto moved to the left and they began performing hand seals, and at the conclusion, they both yelled, "Fire style, Burning Ash accumulation, Wind style, Great Breakthrough." Naruto blew out a huge black mist of flame, while Sasuke let out a huge gust of wind. The wind increased the ash cloud, where it seeped through the cracks in the door. Naruto then clicked his teeth, setting the cloud on fire, the fire increasing due to the power of the Great Breakthrough. Sometime during this, Sakura said, "I know you can defeat those losers, Sasuke-kun. I'll see you at the hiding place." Then, Naruto and Sasuke charged the building. The windows were broken, the door was burned down, and they easily got inside, charging the drunk bandits. They were expecting to break down the door because they knew that a drunk bandit would be a better snitch than a sober one, so they flipped over the approaching people, landing and charging the bandits, knocking out any that got in their way. They were doing well until Naruto ran into a bandit with a sword. He noticed that 10 of them had surrounded him, all brandishing swords, so he charged his energy up, waited until one of them attacked, and when the man swung his axe, it appeared to hit Naruto, but Naruto was gone, and he looked at the afterimage, which was giving him the finger. When Naruto reappeared behind the man, he placed his foot in his back, landed, and charged the other guys. He dodged a bandit's horizontal swipe, which sent a ki blast to his stomach, lifting the man off his feet and sending him crashing into the wall. Naruto jumped under the baseball slide one bandit attempted to hit him with, then kicked the man in the face. He landed with his right foot on the ground, his left held up bent, and he pivoted on his right foot, turning around and letting his left heel impact the guy on his right. To further confuse the bandits, Naruto used an afterimage to get away. "We gotta hurry, Sasuke," Naruto said after he reappeared above their heads and sent a ki blast in the middle of them, blowing them away and into other bandits. Naruto turned to see that Sasuke had fought the bandits in the Uchiha clan style, facing only 2, but counting 5 on the ground, ducked under the spear a bandit threw at him, and then sent his right leg into the last guy. Some of these guys might get sober from the adrenaline. "Okay, let's move," said Sasuke, and he and Naruto charged forward until they reached the drunk people, who were looking around as if they were watching a movie, so they didn't move when Sasuke and Naruto approached them. Naruto made 2 shadow clones, and the clones killed 4 bandits with a simple chop to the neck. He made 2 more clones, and he and the 4 clones each grabbed 1 person, and they were ready to leave, but they were surrounded and the only way was up. The rebels saw that Kakashi was leaving, with his bandit slung over his shoulder, and they all left the building when they realized that Sasuke and Naruto had reached the drunk people. They squatted down a bit after Sasuke said, "Of course." Naruto said, "Now." And they took off, bursting through the roof. As they flew, Naruto threw his person high in the air and launched a power blitz at the bar, which exploded, hopefully taking some bandits with it. Naruto caught his person and caught up to Sasuke. In the hideout. When Naruto and Sasuke landed at the hideout 5 minutes later, they had to take a few moments to calm down because the adrenaline from their recent adventure was still running high. They entered the dilapidated building and discovered that everyone was waiting for them. They cheered when Naruto's clones entered with the remaining bandits. "I can't thank you enough for what you've done," Nikao said as she approached them. After a moment, he said, "Wait, where's the pink-haired girl? Hopefully, we can attack them at their bases and knock them out." With a perplexed expression, Sasuke said, "Wait, did she not accompany you?" "According to Nikao, I thought she was with you. She claimed the other 3 that we knocked out and left when Sasuke and I set fire to the building," Naruto remarked. "We believed she had returned here. We've been back here for a while, and she's not here," Nikao stated. "What do you suppose became of her?" "This is not good," Naruto said. "If she is captured, she cannot fight in vain," leaving the conclusion up to the others' speculation. Kakashi reassured them, "I'm hoping she'll show up tomorrow." That gave some people hope, but then a kunai crashed through the window with a note on it. Naruto checked the note and found it wasn't an explosive note, then read it out loud so the others could hear it. "The girl with the pink hair is ours. I will allow some of my more lonely men to get to know her, but by midnight tomorrow, we want 20 million yen in the heads of all the rebels. She will become a woman much earlier than she anticipated if she doesn't pay up. There is not much time left, so you had better pay up." "Murasama." "What?" Nikao's response came. "They captured Sakura," Naruto said. "Either they rape her or they want $20 million and all of your heads." "And how in hell are we going to generate that kind of money?" Sasuke asked. "It's clear that we don't," Naruto remarked. "Before something bad happens to her, we save her. However, they'll be anticipating it if we attempt to save her at the swap," Sasuke stated. "Guards will be stationed there to watch to see if we break our word." "I understand," Naruto remarked, "which is why we storm their base at City Hall. We should be able to rescue her and the others they abducted if we storm it in the morning." "But if we do that, we'll need a lot more people than ourselves," Sasuke remarked. "I know," said Naruto. "Therefore, before we launch an attack, we must bring in another genin team." "Wait a minute," Kakashi said, jumping right into the conversation. "I make the decisions here because I'm the genin. Reinforcements are not called for. We are capable of managing this on our own." At that, Naruto's eyes widened, and he turned to face Kakashi, asking, "Are you crazy? More than 300 bandits are present, and there are likely 2 missing nins. We're clearly going to require additional assistance." "No, we don't need any help," Kakashi stated. "We 3 can handle it ourselves." Kakashi couldn't allow rumors to spread that one of his genin had been taken into his custody because it would damage his reputation and career. "No," said Naruto. "Even if you don't agree, Kakashi, I'm going to Konoha and getting help for this regardless of what you think." Kakashi responded, "No, you're not. A genin must obey a genin's orders when they are outside the village, according to the ninja law book. The Konoha Ninja Corps would immediately expel anyone who didn't comply. I command you to stay here." Naruto remarked, "The Hokage gave me a special order, unlike you, Kakashi. He granted me special permission to return to the village and ask for assistance if I felt we were in danger, and I will do just that. Whatever you say, Kakashi, I don't care. Unlike you, who most likely only care about your own reputation, I'm concerned about Sakura's safety. You're not nearly as good a sensei as the 4th Hokage. despite all of your talk about how he was like a father to you and how you aspired to be like him. He would be embarrassed if he saw you now, Kakashi. Then Naruto turned around and fled the building, using Super Saiyan to jump off as he ran, and headed for Konohagakure, which took him 5 minutes because he was traveling faster than he could ever do with his team. He flew over the clouds to avoid detection, and although the view of Konoha was serene in the moonlight, Naruto was unable to see any sights because he had to get to the Hokage Tower as soon as possible. Once he arrived at the tower, he touched down and bounded directly into the Hokage's office, saying, "Oji-san. Naruto, did something go wrong on your mission?" The Hokage asked. The Hokage hoped Naruto wouldn't return during the mission, but sometimes things don't work out the way you anticipate. "Yes," Naruto replied. "There were more than 300 bandits present. The city you sent us to was overrun by them. We planned to apprehend some inebriated bandits in order to obtain information from them, such as the number of individuals they apprehended. However, something went wrong. When we were supposed to get the bandits, Sakura left before we attacked. When me and Sasuke got back to the headquarters for the rebels fighting the bandits, we didn't find Sakura there. A kunai flew through the window, and on it, it said that Sakura was captured and they demanded $20 million and the heads of the rebels or Sakura would be raped. I immediately came back here for help, going against what Kakashi ordered." Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. It was very thin ice on which Kakashi was walking. Sarutobi was prepared to dismiss him from the Konoha Ninja Corps because the entire company was in wave, but Kakashi was supported by the Konoha Council. The biased Konoha Council sided with anyone who wasn't Naruto's ally. Despite his desire to fire them, he lacked the authority to do so. The Hokage or the Konoha Council could only be dismissed by one person, and it appeared that Sarutobi would need to call him and inform him of the council's discriminatory practices. He was giving a young boy a chance at life. Even though his actions over the years were obviously biased as well, he was confident that his prejudice would be ignored. In any case, he said to Naruto, "Don't worry, Naruto. I'll deal with Kakashi. You have to get a team to Keanu, name I came up with for the town, and quick." Naruto replied, "But what team is up at?" Naruto looks at the clock over the Hokage's head, 12:45 in the morning? "Damn, you're right. We'll have to get a team early tomorrow to go with you after the people. And they'll have to be fast since time is of the essence and young Sakura's life hangs in the balance." "Naruto, who do you want?" the Hokage said, without voicing his suspicions. Naruto laughed and replied, "I want Vegeta to come with me. An entire team and Vegeta coming with us could cause a little chaos since the ninja force would be down 3 Chunin and 6 Genin. I think bringing Vegeta Jr. with us would be better. He can easily clean this up for us. As a matter of fact, Vegeta Jr. could do this entire mission by himself." Sarutobi laughed and replied, "Probably so. Anyway, go easy on those guys who you captured. I know it would be your first try at interrogation." Naruto replied, "Yeah. I'm gonna see if Vegeta Jr. is awake, or if I can wake him up." After leaving the Hokage's office, Naruto fled to Lee's home. He reached Lee's house a few minutes later. He began pounding on the door until someone answered it and woke up. Vegeta arrived at the door a few minutes later, dressed only in a bedsheet, and exclaimed, "What the fuck do you want, Naruto? It's past midnight." Naruto stated, "I had a mission today. One of my teammates got kidnapped and we need your help to free them." Vegeta hurriedly shut the door after saying, "Give me 15 minutes. I gotta finish something up." Vegeta was wearing his typical outfit when he reappeared, which included a black t-shirt, a future Trunks jacket without the Capsule Corp logo, the Saiyan style boots that Vegeta always wears, black pants, and white gloves. After saying, "Now, come on. We gotta go," he and Naruto took off, but first they went to the Hokage Tower before heading for Keanu. "I guess that idiot sensei of yours didn't want to save the girl?" he said as he was in the air. "I never said," said Naruto. Vegeta interrupted him and replied, "Of course it's that stupid girl. I saw you training that Uchiha boy. And I saw him at that tournament a week ago. I knew that he couldn't have been in trouble." Naruto replied, "Anyway, you're right. That bastard didn't want to save her, believing that he could do it all alone. I don't trust him for anything, so I called in some real help." "Good. Now let's get rid of these fools," Vegeta said. Naruto replied, "Not yet. We have some people we captured for interrogation. I wanted your help in that too." Vegeta replied, "I'm not so good in interrogation, but I'll do it." Naruto discussed the Golden Dragons and their organization for the remainder of the journey. Past midnight, Keanu, I was going to stop it here, but I reasoned that if I did, the next chapter wouldn't be as lengthy. Naruto exited his Super Saiyan mode as he and Vegeta landed at the hiding place. As they entered, they noticed that one of the men was already being questioned. They noticed that he was being questioned by Kakashi. Kakashi was shoved aside by Vegeta, who said, "Let me do it." Vegeta looked directly into the man's eyes. The man appeared to be doing nothing, but after a minute he began to perspire uncomfortably. He replied, "Okay, I'll talk. The girl would probably be held at the prison yard, with all of the other people we took." Vegeta responded, "What are the strengths of your leader? What jutsu does he know? Is he proficient in kenjutsu? Answer me." "I don't know anything, I swear," the man said. Vegeta easily knocked the man out with a simple punch to the chest. Naruto was staring at him with disbelief when he turned around. He responded with, "How did you do that? You made him talk so easily." Vegeta stated, "I used something called killer intent. It's like a bad feeling that overcomes someone when there's someone powerful around. It's a sense of hopelessness and despair that cripples someone. If directed enough, it can be used to make someone see a violent and painful death. It's a really important move to learn. You should try to learn it sometime." Vegeta shoved the unconscious bandit aside and replaced him with another. Vegeta responded, "I asked your little buddy over there. He said that he didn't know anything about your leader's fighting style. Do you know any?" The man looked Vegeta in the eyes, which was a mistake. Like his partner, he squealed after a few seconds. He stated, "The leader's really good with taijutsu and kenjutsu. He can also make this special wire out of water that can cut someone up if they try to get out of it when he traps them. He knows a lot of water jutsu. That's all I know." Then Vegeta rendered him unconscious. He continued, "Okay, that's all the info we need. First, we raid the prison yard and free the prisoners they put in there. The thing is that we'd have to kill all of the bandits. If we let them live, they could easily take over this village again. We have to kill them or else they'll attack again in bigger numbers. I don't like killing that much either, but we'd have to do it to save these people's lives and you all know it." Kakashi responded, "Wait a minute. Just who do you think you are? I am the leading Junin of this mission." Vegeta laughed and said, "Think again." Went into his pocket to fish out a signed paper. "This is a Hokage-approved document stating that I am in control of this mission now, until it's over. Naruto told the Hokage what happened and he immediately put me in charge. Now shut up, imbecile." Vegeta stated, "Once we free Pinky from the prison yard, we'll have to move towards City Hall right away. We can't give them any time to fortify their defenses, so we have to move quickly. Naruto and I will lead the brigade that breaks into the prison yard, and we will buy time so that 5 of you guys," Vegeta indicated the rebels, "will accompany the Uchiha." Of course referring to Sasuke, to free the prisoners. "Once you're sure that everyone is free, we will move towards City Hall to kill the leader, and Kakashi and the rest of you guys will be there, attacking City Hall. Since he's a Junin, he should be able to help you guys hold the bandits off to divert their attention from us. However, we must act quickly. We cannot afford to be late. You have just 5 minutes to retrieve the inmates if you are traveling with the Uchiha. Have you all got that?" It was not the first time Naruto found himself staring at Vegeta in awe as he came up with the entire plan in just 2 minutes. "Good," Vegeta said when the people nodded. "Go to bed now, everyone," Vegeta said. "Without exception, we begin this plan tomorrow at noon. Here, both your town and Pinky's life are on the line. Noon. Kiano, next day. Everyone took their places the following day, but even though there were 20 of them, the rebels pretended to be homeless people on the streets, digging shallow holes in the ground to conceal their weapons and covering the holes with their bodies while they waited for the time to pass. Since Murasama had robbed the village blind, it was easy to pass for homeless. When the clock struck noon, Kakashi and the villagers threw off their homeless disguises and made their way to City Hall, where he began performing hand seals before yelling, "Earth style, Earth Dragon Missile Jutsu." A huge mud dragon emerged from the ground and charged toward the door of City Hall, shattering it and anyone nearby. As Kakashi entered the building, he saw a large number of bandits coming from the stairs, through the doors, and everywhere else. They poured into the main entrance to witness the action. Kakashi pulled out 2 kunai and ran forward, slicing through the crowd of bandits as he went, with the rebels right behind him, drawing their swords and attacking the nearest bandits. With Sasuke, Naruto, and Vegeta, the rebels all threw off their disguises and ran for the door when the clock struck noon. They waited for Naruto and Vegeta, who led them to break down the door. They took their positions, with Naruto spreading his legs and turning his body slightly, cupping his hands on his sides, and charging up energy that gave off a light blue light, while Vegeta spread his legs and turned his body slightly to his right, placing his hands close together by his chest, and then charging up energy that was royal purple and glowed with intensity. Together, they exclaimed, "Kamehameha, Gaelic gun, fire," and launched their assaults, which destroyed the wall and caused Naruto and Vegeta to dash through it in the ensuing smoke, followed by the rebels. 5 bandits followed Sasuke as he immediately fled for the prison building, while the others remained behind with Vegeta and Naruto, drawing whatever weapons they had. Vegeta declared, "Don't hesitate to kill. We must prevail in this conflict." Vegeta, Naruto, and the other rebels then launched an assault on the bandits who were approaching them. With vegetables. When Vegeta saw the bandits approaching, he simply said, "Pathetic," and charged at them, punching the first one who stood in his way in the chest, breaking a few ribs, before disappearing and resurfacing above the man, the sole of his boot in the back of his head. Vegeta landed and charged another bandit, avoiding a kick with his right hand, then using the momentum from the punch to kick the bandit in the face with his left leg, jumping under a sweep and kicking the guy who attempted the sweep, grabbing the guy and throwing him behind him into 3 other bandits, avoiding a bandit's punch, and then grabbing the arm, twisting it until a sickening snap was heard, then throwing the guy into the air. Vegeta turned around to find that some people were still running towards him, and he finished by yelling out, "Fire style! Apollo's Fury!" Vegeta threw out his fist, lifted it to the sky, and a massive burst of fire erupted where the enemy was, burning them all to ashes. With Naruto. With vigor, Naruto charged the bandits, ducked under the thrown punch, and punched the man in the chest. He then blocked the sword swipe that was aimed at his head, shattering the sword, and ran to the bandit who had done it, punching him in the chest. Naruto leapt to his feet and began performing hand seals, shouting, "Lightning style! False darkness jutsu! Water style! Water bullet jutsu!" He yelled as a massive mass of lightning exploded out of his hand, transforming into a great beast that proceeded forward and killed all the bandits in its path by exploding when it reached the ground. Naruto then fell back to the ground and performed more hand seals. After launching a massive water bullet from his mouth, which struck the bandit crowd nearby, Naruto leapt to his feet once more and began shooting at any bandits he came across. He and Vegeta created a commotion, which allowed Sasuke and his group to descend and capture the prisoners. Alongside Sasuke. Prior to charging the prison, Sasuke waited until Naruto and Vegeta broke away from their group. He located the stairs and charged down them, with 5 irate rebels behind him. When they arrived at the bottom, they discovered 13 guards waiting for them. Sasuke charged them, flipping most of the guys over and kicking the guy to his right. He avoided the punch from the guy in front of him and began performing hand seals, which he easily avoided while continuing. When he finished, he leapt to the left, shouting, "Fire style! Grand Fireball Jutsu!" and exhaling a massive ball of fire, which quickly consumed the bandits who were toasting those two. When the bandits were in control of the town, Sasuke noticed that the rebels were easily defeating them. He wondered why, but then he recalled that the rebels were outnumbered 15-1 against the bandits, so they must have been ganged up on. After the last bandit died, Sasuke checked all of their bodies and found the key. Then he ran for the stairs, going down 2 flights, and opened the cells there. The people thanked him, and he let Sakura out, who was delighted to see him. Sasuke simply ignored her and turned around. As he exited the building, he noticed that there were still bandits. Naruto and Vegeta did a great job, but they had to move quickly. Sasuke launched himself at a bandit and began fighting. The rebels followed suit, and soon everyone was dead. Naruto was okay, with minor cuts and a few cuts on his clothing, but he said, "That was way too easy." "How many did you see down there, Sasuke?" According to Sasuke, "I only counted 13 here." "Good," Vegeta said. "Since I counted 143 bodies, more than half of them have been eliminated. But we need to get to City Hall as soon as possible. Hurry up." Vegeta and the others ran towards City Hall, but before they could leave the prison yard, 6 kunai landed in front of them. Because of his experience, Vegeta instinctively looked at the kunai and saw that they were explosive kunai. "Everyone back! They had just left the blast range when the kunai exploded," he shouted. When the smoke cleared, 3 individuals were visible, clearly belonging to the Golden Dragons because they had the dragon's mark on their faces, but they were dressed differently than the bandits, who wore anything they wanted. Black pants and sandals, black vests with black shirts underneath, and a headband with a dragon's head on it, indicating that they were ninja based on their stances. "You're employed by those Golden Dragon jerks, aren't you?" Vegeta asked. "Yes," replied the tallest man in the center. "The Golden Dragons include us. You must be destroyed because you are interfering with the Golden Dragon's operations. Before you came here, I hope you had your wills updated." Smirking, Vegeta said, "I hope you updated yours. I own you. Take the other 2, Sasuke and Naruto. According to the man in the center, your death is near." As the 3 unidentified ninjas began to charge at Naruto, Sasuke, and Vegeta, Vegeta confronted Toguro, the tall one, and their fists clashed in a struggle for control. Vegeta attempted to kick Toguro, but Toguro jumped back and threw an explosive kunai at Vegeta, who caught it and threw it back. Toguro raised his hand to catch it, but Vegeta also released a ki blast, which struck Toguro's hand and caused the kunai to explode in his face. Vegeta narrowed his eyes and charged Toguro, who smirked and charged Vegeta. Vegeta ducked his punch and sent a right hook to Toguro's face, then turned and kicked Toguro with his left foot, sending him flying. When the smoke cleared, Toguro was still standing, with a small burn mark where the attack hit his face, but otherwise unharmed. Vegeta then began blasting Toguro with ki blasts. Vegeta eventually stopped blasting him, and when the smoke cleared, Toguro was still there, but his skin had dents that were bleeding, revealing deeper layers of skin. It was a hideous sight to witness, but all of the damage that Toguro had sustained was suddenly healed, and Vegeta watched in awe, exclaiming, "What the fuck?" "Like it," Toguro said, laughing. "This bloodline is unique. Any harm I sustain is immediately repaired. It's fantastic. I can withstand harm that most people cannot and emerge unscathed. It's bad for you, but great for me, because you're a sitting duck when your energy runs out." Alongside Sasuke. Sasuke was fighting Ryu, the shortest of the Golden Dragons. Ryu charged at him, but Sasuke ducked the blow and kicked him in the face. Ryu fell back, but he flipped back into the upright position. He ran forward, ducked Sasuke's kick, and punched him in the chest. Sasuke flew back, and just as he was about to flip to land on his feet, he felt another blow, but he was still there. When he got up, Ryu was grinning. Ryu put his hand out toward the fireball, which continued to travel toward him but stopped 2 feet away as if it struck an invisible dome. Sasuke watched in awe as Ryu charged at him, narrowly avoiding the blow that was headed for his head before he raised his knee and struck Ryu in the stomach before being flung 10 feet away. "I bet you're wondering how I was able to do all of that, aren't you?" Ryu said as Sasuke turned to face him. Rising to his knees, Sasuke began performing hand seals while shouting, "Fire style! Phoenix flower jutsu!" Sasuke got up and threw 3 kunai at Ryu, who laughed and threw his hand out again. The kunai stopped where they were and turned around. Ryu smirked and then thrust his hand out, and the kunai flew toward him. Sasuke turned on his Sharingan and barely managed to send out 3 ki blasts to destroy the kunai before they hit him, and shot out 20 fireballs, all aimed at Ryu. "I have a unique bloodline," Ryu remarked. "I really don't know how to describe it, but it enables me to do a lot of things. We should stop there. This guy takes chakra control to the extreme. He's able to manipulate chakra into walls. He's able to use it to do just about anything he wants it to do. This isn't going to be easy," Sasuke thought as he saw that chakra leave his hand and go out in an invisible wall that traveled to where he was. Sasuke jumped up and barely managed to dodge the wall. With Naruto. The group's middle height member, Kenji, attacked Naruto. Naruto leapt over Kenji and blasted him with a ki blast while his back was turned. Kenji then jumped up to where Naruto was and punched him in the stomach. Naruto didn't think the attack would hurt that much, but it hurt more than just about any punch he had ever felt before. Kenji then kicked him in the chest, causing him to fall to the ground. "What the hell?" he thought, but he ignored his surprise and rolled out of the way, narrowly avoiding the blow that Kenji had thrown at his head. After rolling to his feet and disappearing, Naruto reappeared with his fist in Kenji's face before knocking him away with his knee up in his stomach. Naruto then charged up energy in his hand and launched a charged ki blast, which Kenji attempted to deflect but which exploded and injured his hand. Kenji then got up and vanished again, reappearing in front of Naruto just as he was about to duck before a punch sailed over his head. Once more, Naruto struck Kenji in the stomach, charging the blow with ki to make it much more painful. The blow sent Kenji sailing, and, after standing up and vanishing, he reappeared where Kenji had landed, but Kenji was unfazed and returned with his fist in Naruto's chest. The blow hurt, and Naruto took a step back from it before collapsing to his knees, unable to move, while Kenji came forward and laughed in Naruto's face. "Like me, you're strong," he said. "Actually, aside from the person with the pink hair, all of your friends are strong. However, my friends and I are stronger. We belong to the Golden Dragon's Hydra division. We Hydra are a unique group of individuals who have offered to participate in medical research. We all possess abilities beyond our wildest expectations as a result. Toguro can heal from any injury. Ryu has an assload of chakra and can manipulate it however he pleases. And I have super speed and strength. It appears you have super strength and speed too, but unfortunately for you, I'm stronger. Now, prepare to die." Kenji attempted to strike Naruto in the face but withdrew his fist. However, Naruto was able to gather energy throughout his body while he was speaking. Naruto was able to release the energy in a thin layer of protective energy when Kenji punched. Kenji's attack was deflected by the code of energy, which Naruto was able to release in a powerful energy wave, knocking Kenji back. Naruto stood up and vanished. He reappeared at Kenji's side. Kenji got one in his face after dodging his blows. Naruto leapt to his back. He told himself as he was leaving, "He is stronger than me." After landing, Naruto stood up. Naruto phased out and phased in behind Kenji when Kenji reappeared behind him and attempted to knee him in the head. He attempted to kick Kenji in the back, but Kenji vanished and then resurfaced, crouching down and facing Naruto. Naruto phased out and phased in behind Kenji when he attempted to punch him. Naruto flew up, grabbing Kenji by the shoulders. Although Kenji was taken aback by Naruto's flying prowess, he kept it to himself. Until they were 200 feet above the ground, Naruto continued to fly. Then Naruto released Kenji. Naruto gathered energy in his hand and yelled, "Riot Javelin," as Kenji fell. The assault proceeded and struck Kenji squarely. Kenji was falling freely to the floor. Underscore. With vegetables, Toguro was charged by Vegeta. He kicked him in the chest after punching him in the face. He flew away from the attack. Vegeta pursued Toguro and began repeatedly punching him in the chest. Then he sent Toguro flying up by kicking him in the chin. Vegeta tucked his thumb in and extended his hand. After gathering energy, he exclaimed, "Atomic Blast." Toguro was struck by the forward moving attack. Then Toguro collapsed to the floor. He broke both his arm and leg when he landed. His skin had only scorch marks for a few seconds, and then nothing. Vegeta muttered the word, "Impossible." Toguro chuckled. "What did I say? I'm impossible to kill. Any damaged or worn out cells in my body are completely destroyed and replaced with new ones. Any damage is immediately repaired. Not only is damage repaired, but aging cells are destroyed and replaced with new ones. I don't age. I'm not only invincible, but I'm also immortal. Well, I'm about to end that." Vegeta spread his legs and twisted his body, saying, "You're invincible and immortal, huh?" He began to gather energy by spreading his hands apart in front of his chest. There was a royal purple glow to the energy. Vegeta shouted, "Gallic Gun, fire!" as she scolded Toguro. Toguro was caught off guard as the assault surged forward. He was struck by the attack and was electrocuted in addition to being fried. Although the pain was excruciating, he was also healing himself as he was being harmed. Believing he had killed Toguro, Vegeta released the attack, and Toguro began performing hand seals. He shouted, "Earth Style, Earth Dragon Jutsu," as he finished. Rising, the earth assumed the shape of a dragon. Before Vegeta could react, the dragon charged forward and collided with him. Then Toguro shouted out, "Earth Style, Revolving Spirit Earth Palm Jutsu," and began performing more hand seals. Then Toguro leapt over Vegeta and placed his hand on the ground. Vegeta appeared to be trapped in an underground cave when his hand apparently grasped the earth and pulled it over him. "See, I told you that I can never be defeated in battle," Toguro said with a laugh. Suddenly the ground trembled. It continued to tremble. A hole eventually appeared in the ground. From the hole came a golden glow. Vegeta then emerged. Super Saiyan was where he was. He was furious and his eyes were narrowed. He replied, "Okay. The mocking I could take. The gloating wasn't that much, but you buried me underground. I was about to go easy on you, but now it's time you died." Vegeta then turned on Toguro. It was unexpected to Toguro. Vegeta kicked Toguro away after punching him in the face. In his hand, he launched an assault. The attack became reddish, orange. "I hope you meet Satan in hell. Big Bang Attack," Vegeta exclaimed, then released the blow. The assault flew ahead and struck Toguro squarely. Toguro was destroyed when the smoke cleared. The ground was covered in bone marrow and numerous fragments of broken bone. Toguro's muscles, organs, and skin were all vaporized during the assault. His skull and a tiny portion of his brain were all that remained intact. With a self-chuckle, Vegeta remarked, "Good enough." Underscore. Alongside Sasuke, Ryu launched another chakra wall at Sasuke, causing him to jump. But he was hovering in mid-air, ready to land. Not because of himself, though. That's because Ryu caught him. Ryu began to shut his hand. Sasuke felt his hand being squeezed harder and harder as he closed it. "This is not good," Sasuke thought. "I'll die if I can't figure out how to get out of this. Hold on a second." Sasuke gestured at Ryu with 2 fingers. His fingers felt like they were going to explode from the amount of energy he put into them. Then he unleashed a powerful but narrow energy beam of attack. As it moved forward, the attack nearly struck Ryu. Ryu could hardly raise a shield to stop the attack when he saw it coming. Sasuke attempted to escape once more but was unsuccessful. Ryu saw that Kenji was descending from the sky just as he was ready to bid him farewell with a kiss. Upon realizing, he released Sasuke and concentrated on ensuring Kenji made a safe landing. Sasuke charged Ryu, seeing this as his moment. He kicked Ryu in the face while twisting. Then he shouted, "Fire style! Phoenix Flower Jutsu!" and began performing hand seals. 20 fireballs were fired by Sasuke, and they struck Ryu as they traveled forward. When Sasuke saw the chakra building up around Ryu's hands, he charged him once more. The spectral hand of chakra reached for Sasuke's throat, and he barely managed to jump over it. He surmised that his Sharingan was the only thing that allowed him to see it. After landing, Sasuke turned to strike Ryu. Sasuke's attacks were deflected by Ryu's shield. But Sasuke never gave up. He persisted in his attacks, but the shield held firm. Leaping back, Sasuke began performing hand seals. In the end, he touched down on the tiger seal. Sasuke gathered chakra in his mouth and rushed forward. Shouting, "Fire style, grand fireball jutsu," he leapt over Ryu. When Sasuke's body was upside down, perpendicular to the ground, and Ryu was directly beneath him, the attack began. Ryu's shield came into contact with the oncoming attack. Floating in the air, Sasuke continued the blast. Because his chakra was running low, Sasuke decided to drop the attack. After hovering in midair, he continued to blast Ryu. Sasuke didn't let up as the ki blasts continued to strike his shield. Ryu was having problems. Although he possessed more chakra than most Chunin, even he would become exhausted from using those attacks as frequently as he did. His chakra control was being tested by the ki blasts. He was barely able to maintain his shield. He sensed his own energy waning. He leapt away, dropping the shield. To make Sasuke see the fictitious remains of his body, he applied a powerful genjutsu to his eyes. He turned to face Toguro, who was about to receive a blast. To make Vegeta believe he had killed Toguro, he threw a genjutsu over Vegeta's eyes. With Naruto, as Kenji fell to his death, Naruto watched. Naruto was astounded by what he saw, but he drifted to the ground. Not even hurt, Kenji was down there. "How did you survive that?" said Naruto as he landed. Kenji replied, "I owe that to Ryu. It was thanks to him that I was caught." Naruto replied, "Well, you're gonna wish he let you drop after I'm through with you." Behind Kenji, Naruto phased in and out. He attempted to strike Kenji in the head, but Kenji retaliated by turning away. Raising his hand, Naruto pressed it against Kenji's face. He blasted Kenji at close range with an energy beam that he had charged. Bleeding in his face, Kenji flew back. Kenji flinched away as Naruto lunged forward and nearly struck him in the face. He reappeared and punched Naruto in the face. Then he gave Naruto a kick. He struck Naruto after phasing in and out. Then he continued that cycle. He would nod off, inhale and strike Naruto. Phase out again after that. Kenji's combination was seriously harming Naruto. Kenji kicked Naruto in the stomach after phasing in. After flying back, Naruto collided with the prison structure. Kenji threw a right punch and charged into the smoke. But it was caught. Just before he was punched in the chest and sent flying in the direction of where they had first started fighting, Kenji thought, "Huh." Naruto, in Super Saiyan mode, came after him. Naruto rushed towards Kenji and began pelting his body with blows. The attacks were too fast for Kenji to keep up with. All he felt was pain. Naruto persisted. Kenji was kicked out by Naruto. Kenji said, "I think it's time we got out of here," after giving Ryu a quick glance. Kenji sprinted in the direction of Ryu and Toguro's location. They left the village and began running down the road. Ryu moved his hands and brought two of the houses on Naruto's sides down on him as Naruto charged after them, chasing after them. In order to avoid the houses, Naruto could hardly pull up. He glanced in their direction, but they were too far away for him to locate. After returning to the prison yard by air, Naruto declared, "I couldn't catch them." Vegeta replied, "It doesn't matter. Something tells me that we'll be seeing them again soon. For now, we gotta go to City Hall and help Kakashi." City Hall. Kakashi was struggling. Before they all turned on him, he took out 50. He would undoubtedly be beaten if you combine that with the fact that more came out. It was just a question of time. His was up, too. Every time he killed one bandit, another one appeared. He pondered whether Naruto would ever arrive with the others. But when he heard a roar, his suspicions were validated. He glanced back, then abruptly hit the ground. He was also fortunate. He saw a lightning beast fly over his head. The beast struck 10 bandits as it flew forward. Sasuke, Naruto, and Vegeta leapt over him right away. As Vegeta and Sasuke continued to attack the bandits, Naruto halted. With his hands by his sides, he focused as his energy level rose. He transformed into a Super Saiyan by exerting all of his energy into the transformation. Invisible to the unaided eye, he charged the bandits right away. The bandits in front of Naruto instantly flew, as if something had blown through them, but it was impossible to tell where he went. Naruto spun around and launched lightning. Fast attacks on the bandits. There was no chance for the bandits. All of them were gone in 2 minutes. Naruto left Super Saiyan as soon as they were finished. Despite the strength of the form, Naruto was unable to maintain it for very long. The rebels and others began to leave the building as Naruto turned to see that all of the bandits had been killed. Remarkably, none of the rebels lost their lives. Naruto glanced around for Murasama, but he was nowhere to be found. When Naruto heard the windows shatter, he turned to see that it was a kunai bearing a message. Once more, Naruto read the message aloud. Probably trying to find me. Unfortunately, I'll be long gone by the time you read this message. You saved the girl with the pink hair and released everyone we had taken prisoner. It surprises me. It would be too simple for me to kill you now. I'll probably play with you for a while. Yes, and I placed explosive tags throughout the building, which ought to go off as soon as you finish reading this message. Enjoy yourself. Murasama. Everyone out. There's explosive tags on the building. Naruto snarled in rage, but it was a second too late because they blew. Vegeta and Naruto ensured everyone's safe departure. Many people left after they were able to deal with the bandits, so there weren't many people to evacuate. They hardly left the building when the people were out. To everyone's applause, they emerged. Everyone was joyful and content. They could now rebuild in peace after the bandits left their village. The ninja then departed from the village. Naruto promised to assist them and said they could always call Konoha if they had bandit problems. The people of Kiano were eternally grateful and showered him with thanks. On the Konoha road, it was all the same on the road back to Konoha. Naruto was moving forward while chatting lightly with Sasuke. They were discussing their experiences fighting those unique golden dragon soldiers. Sasuke agreed with Naruto when he expressed his suspicion that they would cross paths again. As usual, Sakura struggled to keep up with them as she walked behind them. She was also thinking about Sasuke and daydreaming about them doing inappropriate things for 12-year-olds. Vegeta and Kakashi were fighting the entire time. In addition to Naruto going behind his back, Kakashi lost his leadership of that mission, which infuriated him. His career status might have been greatly enhanced if he had pursued that through to the end. It's likely that he could have been the next Hokage. However, Naruto's reputation would be severely damaged as a result of that hellspawn. Kakashi angrily remarked, "Vegeta, you had no right to take control of that mission." Vegeta responded in his family's customary reprimanding manner, "Fuck you, Kakashi. If you could have kept your head in the game, and out of those porno books, you might have noticed that Pinky didn't get back." Kakashi thought it was a good excuse to say, "I was too busy getting my prisoners from that bar." When you become a Junin sensei, the mission doesn't mean jack shit if your genin are in danger. The fact that you don't know that means that either you are a badass student or you had a badass teacher. And I know that it wasn't the latter, cause I knew your sensei personally and I know he would have drilled that lesson in your head the day you made Junin. You fucked up big time, Kakashi. You always have been, but thanks to the Konoha Council bailing your ass out, you haven't had to take responsibility for it. Now you do. And you better start taking responsibilities for your actions. Feeling as though his position and rank were being questioned, Kakashi retorted, "Who do you think you're talking to? I'm ranked an elite Junin of our village and you just got your Junin status back. You had better watch who you're talking to. I don't care if you were the Suichikage himself. I was on par with Minato when he died and I have only gotten stronger since then. You had best watch who you're talking to, Hitaki," Vegeta said with a strong voice. Kakashi appeared to be about to say something else, but then he noticed Vegeta's eyes turning turquoise as he looked into them. Additionally, he sensed Vegeta's intense desire to kill. Kakashi was so terrified by it that he didn't speak to Vegeta again that day. Sakura stopped daydreaming about fucking Sasuke long enough to recall something Naruto did during the battle while Kakashi was speaking to Vegeta. She also recalled that he had done the same thing in Wave, but she was unable to question him at the time. "Dobi, how did your hair and your eye color change in that fight? And how did you fly in that battle?" she demanded, turning to Naruto. Naruto glanced at her and replied, "Well, you flat-chested bitch, that, I believe, is none of your concern. I'm surprised you saw that I did that, seeing as you spend 24 hours a day wondering when you're gonna attack and rape Sasuke. But if you must know, it's a family jutsu. We can only teach that technique to one person, and that person must swear on their life and chakra that they won't teach it to another soul without our permission. Our family was close to Vegeta's family, so they taught it to his family. Kakashi turned to listen in on Naruto and Sakura's conversation after Vegeta reprimanded him. He turned to Naruto and said, "Naruto, as your Junin sensei, I order you to teach that jutsu to Sasuke, after learning that those techniques could be taught to others." First incredulous, then enraged, Naruto turned to face Kakashi. He stated, "For your information, bitch, I already did. Second, I wouldn't care if you were the Hokage. I would never listen to your orders, Kakashi. You lost all the respect I had for you when you couldn't see the difference between a prisoner and a jailer. You aren't a real sensei, and you never will be in my book, Hitaki." Kakashi gave Naruto a vile glare. When his authority was questioned, it was the second time in 10 minutes. Since Vegeta was 13 years more experienced as a Chunin than he was, he could take it from him. But that was all it took for a snotty, recently graduated Genin punk like Naruto to question his authority. "I am your sensei and you will treat me with some respect," Kakashi said, glaring at Naruto more intensely. "You have to be worthy of respect to gain it, Hitaki, and I know you're not worthy," Naruto remarked, glancing at Kakashi. Kakashi responded, "I have a lot of pull in certain places, Naruto, and I can make many things happen, Naruto. You don't want to test me." Naruto replied, "You don't want to test me, Kakashi. I don't give a rat's ass what pull you have in the council. I am an adult in the eyes of Konoha and I am a shinobi, and the only person who can affect my job is the Hokage. So unless you have a pull with Oji.san that I don't know, you can't affect me in any way." Kakashi responded, "I can have you expelled from the shinobi program for insubordination." Smirking, Naruto remarked, "I like to see you try." "All right," said Kakashi, "but keep in mind that you requested it." Kakashi continued his tirade, but Naruto chose to ignore it. Disrespecting his Chunin sensei even more, he resumed his conversation with Sasuke. Naruto, however, didn't care. From his perspective, Sasuke was the only person on his team. That evening, Vegeta offered to watch their camp for the first time that evening along with Naruto and Sasuke. Vegeta took Naruto and Sasuke somewhere else away from their camp for the night after Sakura and Kakashi left. Vegeta told them to take to the sky as they were leaving, and he did so himself. Right behind him was Naruto. Naruto was a bit ahead of Sasuke. His flying skills were still inferior to Naruto's. "Vegeta. Sensei, what are we doing up here exactly?" he asked them when he arrived. Vegeta stated, "We're up here to teach you the fundamentals of flying. I know that Kyuubi taught you how to fly, but he couldn't have been a very good teacher because he was never able to fly himself," Naruto said. "Is that true?" thought Naruto as he reached for the Kyuubi's brain. In response, the Kyuubi said, "Yep. Vegeta and Goku taught me everything I know about flying. I didn't have enough chakra control to fly, so you could just pour more and more chakra into every jutsu I taught you and it would still work." Naruto thought about it, and he understood that he could pour more and more power into each of the jutsu he was taught. He released his connection with the Kyuubi and began to listen to Vegeta as he spoke. Vegeta went on, saying, "Follow me," and he ascended. The two children followed him, finding it increasingly difficult to breathe as they flew upward, until he stopped, and they stopped as well, saying, "Here's one danger. The air becomes thinner as you ascend. There won't be nearly enough oxygen in the air to sustain you if you get high enough. This is one thing you should absolutely avoid if you're up against a flying opponent. Training your lungs to endure this thin air is one way to get around this. Come on, I have another thing to show you." Vegeta descended again and headed west, and when he stopped, they noticed a group of birds flying directly at them. "There's another one," Vegeta said. "There are flocks of these birds everywhere. In a fight, they can really mess you up. Particularly if they attack you after you kill one of them. By creating a slight aura, you can avoid this. Most animals are able to sense ki for some reason. They will stay away from you after sensing your aura." Along the way, Vegeta continued to tell Naruto and Sasuke things, such as, if you're in a battle, you want to avoid flying into a cloud. Vegeta spun around and began to slowly make his way back to camp. It is extremely misty, and it will seriously impair your vision. If you're not careful, you could be blasted into oblivion. You also have to keep up with the weather. If it's raining or snowing or anything like that, you'll want to take the fight either above the clouds, or on the ground. That way, your vision won't be impaired. Also, if it's a thunderstorm, you'll want to take the fight above the clouds immediately, since if you don't you'll attract lightning bolts to you. They strike the closest thing to them, and that will be you if you're in the air. Also, when weather starts to affect your fight, let out a small aura of ki to make sure that snow or rain doesn't fall on you and weigh down your clothes. Now come on, let's land." Vegeta instructed them to follow him back to the camp after they touched down. After spending some time in his tent, he returned with several water balls. After filling them up at a nearby river, he returned. Vegeta took one and held it in his hand as he handed them to Naruto, who said, "Pop this with chakra only. I'll demonstrate." Then the water balloon began to get bumps all over it. The lumps appeared and then disappeared. The balloon eventually burst. He continued, "Naruto, now you try this. This is the first step in your father's technique, the Rasengan. I want you to figure this out for yourself, so I won't tell you the secret. The only thing I will tell you is that the Rasengan was made to have all the force and power of a typhoon concentrated into a small ball. Try it now." Naruto attempted it but was unsuccessful. When he wasn't able to, Vegeta replied, "Keep working on that, Naruto." "Sasuke, I'm sorry but I don't have any jutsu to teach you. I didn't learn that many EC rank jutsu since all mine are a rank and higher, and I don't think you have the power for them yet. But I will tell you this. Your clan was masters at fire jutsu. Try looking into their jutsu library and grabbing some scrolls. They'll probably have a lot more better jutsu than I could give you." Sasuke replied, "It's not a problem. I was gonna do that as soon as we got back to the village anyway." He said, "I'm bored. I can't pop that stupid ball," after turning to face Naruto and watching him toss the water ball at a tree. With a, "Fine then, we can spar a little. Follow me," statement, Vegeta took off. Sasuke and Naruto trailed behind. They soared into the air, out of sight of Sakura and Kakashi. "Okay, you two versus me. I'll go easy on you," Vegeta continued. "You sure? We might kick your ass," Naruto remarked. Speaking louder, Vegeta said, "Give me your best shot." He muttered to himself, "Yeah, that'll be the day." Turning to face Sasuke, Naruto remarked, "Well, he did ask for it." With a smile, Sasuke remarked, "He did indeed." After closing his eyes and focusing for a moment, Naruto screamed and transformed into Super Saiyan. Then, with Sasuke right behind him, he launched himself at Vegeta. Vegeta easily parried the forward punch that Naruto threw at him. After that, Naruto threw Vegeta a flurry of punches, all of which were easily parried. Sasuke was performing hand seals while Naruto was launching a direct attack on Vegeta. He exclaimed, "Fire style! Grand Fireball Jutsu!" and unleashed a massive fireball after he was done. The assault continued. Fortunately, Naruto managed to phase out of the way. Vegeta wasn't as fortunate and was struck by it. He was consumed by the attack. Vegeta was standing there unharmed when the attack subsided. "Is that all you got?" he said with a sly smile. Once more, Naruto charged Vegeta, this time with Sasuke at his heels. Both of them began assaulting him. Wearing his Sharingan, Sasuke was able to predict Naruto's movements and launch a coordinated attack that would surprise Vegeta. Unfortunately, that never took place. Even Sasuke's Sharingan could not keep up with Vegeta's speed. In a split second, every weak point was covered. It was unthinkable. An additional hour was spent in combat. Sasuke used all of his chakra to keep his Sharingan on and assist Naruto because he was too exhausted to attack. Vegeta was too powerful for them both. Vegeta began to laugh at them when they said they had given up. He continued, "That's why you don't want me as your enemy." Vegeta landed on their training ground after descending. He continued, "Okay. Our watch is over now. Wake up Kakashi and go to bed." Vegeta followed with, "Hold up. Write a report on this mission and give it to me." With a glance at Vegeta, Naruto asked, "What for?" Vegeta replied, "You'll see, just write the damn report and give it to me." The following morning, Vegeta and the others left again the following morning. They headed straight for the Hokage Tower as soon as they arrived in Konoha. The Hokage said, "You're back. I trust everything went well," when they arrived. Kakashi bitched during that time. He replied, "No, it didn't, Hokage-sama. Naruto not only disobeyed a direct order from me, but he also showed me disrespect all the way back. I suggest he be removed as a shinobi of our village." The Hokage replied, "If you're referring to the fact that he came back to the village to get Vegeta, then you're right. He was disobeying your orders to follow mine. I told him that if he thought they were in over their heads, he may request other ninja come help. As for disrespect, from the mission report given to me by Naruto, Sasuke, and Vegeta, it looks like you don't earn any respect, Kakashi. I warned you last time about this, Kakashi. If I have to warn you again, you won't be a shinobi anymore. Do I make myself clear?" Kakashi began to stutter as he glanced at the Hokage. But Hokage-sama, he said. With a burst of killer intent, the Hokage rose to his feet. He responded with, "Do I make myself clear, Hitaki?" Gazing at the ground, Kakashi uttered the words, "Yes, Hokage-sama." The Hokage replied, "Good. Now I want yours and Sakura's mission report on my desk tomorrow." Dismissed. They didn't say anything. "Okay, Sasuke, I want you to learn some jutsu from your family library. Naruto, I want you to figure out how to pop that water balloon. Good luck," Vegeta said as they prepared to leave. Sasuke fled after Naruto, who muttered something about popping a water ball, claiming he didn't want to be near them. Naruto departed for his residence. He began attempting to burst the balloon. He was unable to pop it after hours and hours. Naruto screamed in exasperation after yet another failure. "How come I can't do this correctly? I just need to pop this balloon. Why am I unable to do it?" The ball became flatter the more he attempted to accelerate the rotation. He didn't desire that. He wanted it to blow up everywhere. Naruto simply let it go for the day after making a mistake. Naruto went to the underground lab after flying out his window. Upon arriving, he entered the weight room and increased the gravity to 4x. Naruto was so powerful that he was rooted to the ground when the gravity changed. Naruto sat up and remained seated, attempting to adjust to the weight. He got up and began to move around a little. He had the room create some moving targets once he felt comfortable with his abilities. Naruto attempted to capture them with ki blasts but was unsuccessful. His limbs hadn't gotten used to 4x, and they were moving too quickly. Naruto began exercising after reclined on the ground. In an attempt to get his limbs adjusted to 4x, he began doing everything he could. Naruto eventually became too exhausted to stand. He was lying on the floor when he heard a voice entering. At the weight, he did not hear the person falter. Lee was the one who appeared. He had reached the fourth gate. He approached Naruto and said, "You really need to stop overexerting yourself. You're gonna kill yourself someday. Now come on. I'll turn it back down to 3x and we can train. Besides, didn't you just start 3x training when you left for your mission a few days ago?" Naruto replied, "You can ridicule me later, just turn down the fucking gravity." Lee turned the machine's gravity back down to 3x while grinning at Naruto. Naruto discovered that he could breathe much more easily and move more easily after doing so. Lee was already in the room when he got up. Lee approached Naruto and handed him one of the senzu beans. Naruto experienced the well-known surge of power after eating it, and all of his wounds were repaired. When he got to his feet, he discovered that 3x had only slightly affected him. He turned to face Lee, who was breathing a little heavily after releasing his fourth gate form. "That transformation still takes some out of you, doesn't it?" smirked Naruto. Lee commented, "It isn't opening the gates, it closing them that's such a bitch. It always damages me a little." Naruto gave a small nod and said, "That's how it is for Super Saiyan. Your body has to adapt to the sudden rush of gaining more than 10 times the amount of energy it was originally meant to hold. You're telling me to stop overexerting myself when you're doing that too." Lee replied, "Anyway, come on, we gotta train. You know Dad will bust a gasket if we don't train now." Lee went to the GR's computer and adjusted the settings so that 200 robots would be produced for combat. Lee and Naruto exerted all of their strength in their normal form as the robots emerged. They were both surrounded by white auras that resembled fire, and their hair was blowing up. They charged when they noticed the robots emerging. With Naruto, one robot was charged by Naruto, who then punched it in the face. Then he kicked another one square in the chest while standing on his right foot. One of them punched him, and he blocked. One of them threw a punch at Naruto, who ducked under it before launching a left uppercut. Then he kicked it in the chest with his right leg. After leaping into the air, Naruto prepared a powerful ki blast and detonated it in the center of the robot ring. Some of the robots were damaged by the blast, but sadly, the robots threw up shields to prevent the damage. After landing, Naruto muttered, "Shit, I thought I had them." He then charged them once more and began fighting. He took one and began repeatedly punching it in the face. He was taken by the arms by the other robots. The robot got to his feet. It had eyes and could see, but its head armor was smashed. It approached the area where Naruto was restrained by the other robots and began punching him in the chest. Naruto's eyes bugged out from the force of one punch. Naruto used his left foot to kick the robot's fist just as it was about to deliver the third punch. To strengthen his arms and free them from the robots, he charged ki into them. After that, he punched the robot on his left before turning to punch it on his right. He swiveled to his left once more and kicked the robot in the stomach with his right leg. Then he snatched it by the head and hurled it at the right hand robot. The robot was punching Naruto in the stomach, so he charged up a ki beam in his left hand and thrust it at it. It struck the robot behind it after passing through its head. Naruto noticed that the robots were getting closer as he looked around. The other ones moved in during that time because the others had been destroyed. When Naruto saw them enter, he flew into the air. He began performing hand seals, but the robots began firing ki blasts at him before he could finish them. He couldn't find time to finish the hand seals for the jutsu because they kept blasting him. As Naruto dodged ki blasts, the Kyuubi's amused voice said, "That's why I said learn them without hand seals." The only response Naruto gave was a furious, "Fuck you." After landing, Naruto launched a ki beam at a robot. It was blocked by the robot's ability to throw up the shield, but it bounced off and struck another one. After charging the robot, Naruto punched it in the face and smashed ki into his fist. Through the back of the robot's head, his hand emerged. Naruto was shot in the back just as he turned around. He staggered a bit. He was blasted once more just as he was about to stand up again. He flew toward the GR's door after a robot stepped forward and gave him a jump kick. With a frown on his face, Naruto stood up once more. Determined to exact his retribution, Naruto charged at that robot. He rushed forward, launching an assault on the robot. Despite his punches, the robot was able to block them. The robot retaliated, but his fist went through a Naruto afterimage. He was kicked in the head by Naruto, who reappeared behind him. Then he lunged forward and kicked him once more. Naruto turned to face another robot and struck it in the head. Suddenly, a robot approached him and attempted to strike him in the head, forcing him to duck down. Grabbing its head, Naruto drew it to his knee. The robot's head was smashed by that. Naruto ducked and swept the robot feet from under it as he saw it charge at him from the side. After dodging a few robots by jumping to his side, Naruto launched an energy attack. Energy surged into his left hand. He waited until his energy was barely visible in the expanding ball of ki. Then, shouting, "Riot Javelin!" he released the attack, which sailed forward and destroyed 20 robots. However, Naruto was somewhat exhausted after the attack. After that attack, Naruto felt lethargic. He could still fight, but not nearly as effectively as he usually could. Naruto attempted, but was unable, to resist the increasing number of robots. He was eventually kicked into a second wall. He was nearly unconscious after falling against the wall. After a while, he got up. With Lee. Lee gave the robots a charge. Leaping to his feet, he launched his trademark, Leaf Hurricane attack, which struck a robot and severed its head. Lee lunged forward and struck a second robot in the chest. The attack exited the back of the robot after passing through its chest. Lee retreated and launched another assault. One of the robots kicked him from the side, and he dodged. He kicked the leg out from under it after grabbing it. After that, a robot launched a ki blast at Lee. Lee fired one back at the ki blast after jumping over it. It blew the robot off after striking it squarely in the head. Lee rushed forward and struck the head of another one. Then he raised his knee, pressing it into its chest. Taking hold of its head, he hurled it at the other robots. Lee vanished and then reappeared with his right foot pulled back, crouching beneath a robot. "Leaf Rising Wind!" he cried, and the sole of his foot struck that monster's chin. Lee leapt up to seize the robot's head. Then he threw the robot at people while twisting in the air. Lee began to charge up an attack after levitating in midair. However, a robot blasted him before he could finish the attack. Though it didn't cause much pain, the attack caused Lee to become distracted. The robots continued firing at him as he prepared to charge it up again. He was struck in the head by one of them, then in the gut by another, and so on, until he was blasted from the sky. There were robots everywhere when Lee touched down. All at once they charged in and began to attack. Lee dodged another blow after parrying a kick and blocking a punch. One robot with a left hook stepped forward. Lee kicked the robot back into another one after blocking it. With a kick, another robot arrived. Grabbing the leg, Lee tossed the robot among the others. He kicked that robot in the face after jumping under a low kick. Lee leapt up and charged a robot. He was shot in the back just as he turned to head for the Leaf Whirlwind. Then he was shot once more. Lee was shot when he attempted to attack again. After that, Lee became extremely defensive. He would either dodge or deflect the ki blast when a robot shot at him, causing it to strike another robot. When he was this outnumbered, Lee believed this to be the most effective method of eliminating adversaries. It worked for him after a few minutes. Lee launched a counterattack as the robots attacked, typically destroying them in the process. He had to keep an eye out for the ki blasts even though the numbers were decreasing. Lee's attention was on a robot. He thought that one would be the next to move. However, he was mistaken. He was kicked in the back by a robot that appeared from behind him. The robots interpreted his falling forward as a fide day. They all began kicking and punching him. They exerted every effort to harm him. Lee eventually gained strength and used his aura to blow them away, He began repeatedly attacking the robots. Regretfully, nothing was effective. They caught up to him. Lee leapt and performed a leaf whirlwind in an attempt to take down as many as he could. Despite his best efforts, Lee was unable to obtain an advantage. After a while, they took control and kicked him against a wall. Naruto was knocked into the same wall. After exchanging glances, they declared, "Let's stop holding back." Both of them got up and gave it their best effort. Naruto yelled and changed into a Super Saiyan as he reached the peak of his power. Lee's power reached its maximum. Naruto focused and began to store energy. He began to chant, "Ka." Lee adopted a similar posture and began focusing his energy on his attack while Naruto was chanting. "Me" was still being chanted by Naruto. Eventually, Lee's energy glowed royal purple, "Ha." A faint blue glow radiated from Naruto's energy. Both energy masses began to increase steadily. "Me." Lee and Naruto launched their attack at the robots with a "Ha" at the height of their power. "Gaelic gun, fire," shouted Lee. Everything that stood in their way was destroyed as the blue and purple masses of energy sailed forward. The robots in particular. There were still 75 robots remaining even though they destroyed 75 with that one blast. Underscore. A tiny time skip they ultimately lost in the end. They both charged and gave it their all in battle, but they were defeated when the robots unintentionally struck each other with their strongest blows. Halfway through the battle, Vegeta entered and burst out laughing at its conclusion. Naruto went to the village's shopping area after training. To avoid being overcharged by the foolish store owners, he donned a transformation jutsu. He proceeded to purchase a set of attachable weights so he could always wear them. He felt the weight slow him down as he put them on. To increase his speed, he kept them on constantly. I hope they will be as helpful to him as they were to his forefathers. Taking advantage of the little downtime the Hokage allowed them, Naruto went to his house and lay in bed, falling asleep. Lee and Naruto participated in the GR training. They had been putting in a lot of effort over the last 3 weeks. Lee had been putting in endless effort to become a Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan's power was palpable to him, and he was aware that he was drawing nearer every day. However, he seemed to become more aware that he still had a long way to go the more he worked. Vegeta was teaching Naruto how to control his ki more effectively. He had been using his ki like a gun, wielding kid with a trigger ever since he had mastered its manipulation. After battles, Naruto frequently felt exhausted, so he went to Vegeta for advice on how to control his ki, since Vegeta had decades of experience with it. Vegeta advised Naruto to seriously reduce his ki intake. Vegeta addressed Naruto, saying, "I admit that ki is very powerful and deadly, but it's deadly not only to the target but also to the user. If you become too dependent on it, your other skills will start slacking. Take your ancestor Goku for example. He went crazy with ki when he learned how to use it, and as a result, his fighting skills suffered greatly. Yes, he was a good fighter, but his fighting skills were nowhere near as good as they could have been if he had devoted as much to honing that as much as ki. Even though Goku's fighting style deteriorated, his friend Yamcha's ki was 100 times less than Goku's. He therefore needed to find a way to make ends meet. He also trained frantically in martial arts because he knew he would never be able to level up to a Saiyan in ki. He became so strong that, with his hands tied behind his back, he could defeat Kakarot in a duel if their strength levels were equal. You see, fighting is a give and take system. If you increase one thing, you decrease another. You have to figure out what your strengths are and how to compensate for your weaknesses. It's not easy, but nothing worthwhile ever comes easily. For instance, consider me. I don't have much jutsu, but I do have some strong jutsu. Like my jutsu of Apollo's Fury. I can use this fire jutsu to call forth a column of fire anywhere I desire. Even though I only have 10 or so jutsus, they are all strong, so I make up for my lack of numbers with strength. Naruto took those words to heart and has been working on his strengths and weaknesses ever since, but he had to set that aside in order to help Lee become Super Saiyan. They decided that it would be easier to win if Lee were Super Saiyan after they were forced to fight the robot army every day. Naruto has been encouraging Lee from the start, saying things like, "Come on, Lee, you're so close. You need to exert more force. Now is not the time to give in. Hurry up." With his lavender hair blowing up toward the sky and his muscles in a strange pattern of expansion and contraction, Lee had been in a power-gathering stance for hours. He was in a lot of pain, and he could feel the power rushing through every fiber in his body. Lee yelled as he increased his power further, pushing his body above and beyond its limit. He felt his power rise until he literally felt something stop its flow, forcing his power back down. Lee pushed against the barrier with another yell, but he was unable to get past it. He grunted in exhaustion and collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. Naruto approached Lee, not particularly worried because he experienced the same feeling each time he depowered from Super Saiyan, saying, "I felt your power. Didn't you hit the barrier?" "Yeah, how do you know?" asked Lee. Naruto replied, "Experience. I did that exact same thing when I first transformed. The first time, I pushed through it because of my rage. But every time I went Super Saiyan, I felt that barrier trying to stop me. It stopped me when we fought Teost and I did something else weird. Anyway, when your power gets strong enough, you'll push through it." Lee was fine by the time Naruto finished speaking. He got up and said, "But why can't I? You said that you were at a power level of 125,000 when you pushed through it. I was stronger than that when I first met you. I should be able to push through it. Why can't I?" Naruto shut his eyes and pondered for a while. Then he snapped his fingers and opened his eyes. He stated, "It must have been your transformation to a half Saiyan. Maybe it's because your Saiyan instincts are stronger now. And your Saiyan instincts are forcing you to get stronger before you can reach that power." Lee replied, "Damn, why didn't I wait until I became a Super Saiyan to become a half Saiyan?" Naruto replied, "Don't worry, you'll get to Super Saiyan soon enough. For now, let's take a little break. That bitch destroyed another one. I really need to kill that slut." Naruto squinted and exclaimed, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." He then made 3 shadow clones and commanded them to go and take the position of the one that was just destroyed. The clones took off without a word. Lee's expression was one of perplexity as he gazed at Naruto. "What was that for?" he asked. Naruto said, "Since my dumbass teacher doesn't teach me anything and all we do is go on D-rank missions, I send a shadow clone in my place. The only problem is that bitch Sakura keeps destroying them. It's getting on my fucking nerves." Lee stated, "She really needs to take some anger management classes." Naruto replied, "Damn straight. From what I learned from the clone, we just completed another mission and my clone insulted her." Lee said, "Maybe your clone shouldn't have insulted her," as he gazed at Naruto in bewilderment. Naruto felt information burst into his mind just as he opened his mouth to speak. He learned of the destruction of one of his clones from his team. The clone was apparently destroyed by Sasuke after he said, "We're needed at the Hokage's tower." Naruto left for the Hokage's tower after overcoming the minor headache caused by the clone's memories. He phased there because it was daytime and Konoha was very animated at the moment. "What do you need me for, Oji-san?" he asked upon arriving. The Hokage replied, "Hold up a minute Naruto. There are more people coming, so we'll just wait for them. I don't want to explain this a bunch of times." Kakashi and the other members of Team 7 entered the room a few minutes later. "Alright old man, what's up?" Naruto asked, turning to face the Hokage. "Hold up a minute, Naruto. The rest aren't here," the Hokage said. A few more minutes later, Lee's team entered the building. "Alright," the Hokage said, "I can start now that everyone is present. To support our ally Sanagakure no Sato, you are all being sent on an A-rank mission. An organization known as the Golden Dragons is causing them problems. You must be familiar with Team 7, right? They're a multi-national organization that operates mostly in slave trafficking." Naruto responded on their behalf, even though the Hokage was speaking to the entire team. They are mostly composed of missing nin, bandits, and punks who are trying to establish themselves. The Golden Dragons are one of the biggest names in Kusa no Kiri, Grass Country, when it comes to weapons smuggling, slave trafficking, forced prostitution, and drug trafficking. They've recently expanded their operations to Wind Country, Rain Country, Bird Country, and as we found out a few weeks ago, Fire Country. Everyone was staring at Naruto in awe after he had finished explaining the crime syndicate. Not even the Hokage understood what he was saying. Sarutobi turned to face Naruto and asked, "Remember when you told me you helped stop the Golden Dragons operation in Wind Country?" The Hokage replied, "Yes, well, moving on." Naruto said, "Yeah, what about it?" after giving the Hokage a strange look. The Hokage replied, "Apparently, the Golden Dragons are trying to gain another foothold in Wind Country. Since you and the Kage's children stopped them before, they lost their only base in Kase no Kiri and they needed to gain another foothold or else they could kiss their operations their goodbye. Sanagakure Intel has discovered some illegal human trafficking at Kase no Kuni's border with Bird Country hats run by someone. Rumor is that he's part of the Golden Dragons. They're sending the children of the Kage to investigate and destroy the operation." The Hokage went on. "Apparently, they're short-handed right now. The Junin are busy doing a lot of B-Day rank missions that are coming in for the village. They can only spare the Suna siblings. The Suna siblings and Sanagakure originally requested Naruto only, but since I can't send a genin alone on a mission, let alone another country, I've decided to send Team 7 and Team Guide to help. Team Guy has a year more experience than Team 7, so I decided to send both of you. Neji intervened and stated, "That's okay and all, but are you sure that Suna can cover the charges? I mean, they already had to pay the A-rank mission rate for the Suna siblings and their sensei. They only requested Naruto, but they now have to take 8 people." The Hokage replied, "I've been sending them messages by Messenger Hawk since last week, when they requested Naruto's help. All this was previously discussed and they agreed to pay for 2 teams. But no more than that. I suggest that your teams get rested. It's a long way to the Bird Country, Wind Country border, so I'd pack for a mission that's a month long, at least. You leave in 3 hours at the West Gate. Be on time, Kakashi, or else I will demote you to Genin and have you doing D ranks for 3 full years without pay. Good luck." Naruto went to the lab to work in the GR after the Hokage dismissed them. He briefly trained in 3x before beginning to practice his jutsu. He was attempting to learn how to perform all of his jutsu without hand seals, as advised by the Kyuubi. However, it was challenging. Attempting to learn every note of a song on Guitar Hero with the expert difficulty level was like trying to do it while blind. The biggest understatement of the century would be to say it's difficult. But when things got hard, Naruto didn't give up easily. It was becoming difficult for him to control his chakra without using hand seals. An hour later, Naruto became enraged and gave the GR's main computer instructions to build a few robots. Something had to be killed. In order to make the skills fit him perfectly, Naruto manipulated them. Well, he's not exactly a match. In his rage, Naruto unintentionally placed the robots on the beat up training level that he and Lee use. Level 30 speed strength, 25th level 29 endurance. Level 29 stamina, level 25 ki blasts, level 25 for fighting. Level 25 intelligence, figure .09, song, Linkin Park. The room created the robots for Naruto to battle while he waited. As soon as the 10 robots arrived, they began charging him. One of them launched a charged ki blast in Naruto's face just as he was ready to charge them as well. From the shot, Naruto flew back. He was hurled to the window because he was not on his guard. He discovered that the others were blasting him as well when he landed. He didn't have enough time to counter because the robots didn't slow down. Naruto began to stand up as soon as he recovered from the attack. Naruto created a ki shield to deflect the attacks since they kept coming. All of the ki blasts were deflected by the yellow shield. However, the shield wouldn't last that long. However, it lasted long enough for Naruto to get up and leave the area of attack. Naruto came up behind the robots after running around them. He led with a punch and ran at the one on the left that was the furthest away. Regretfully, they detected him due to the stronger robots. The sole of a foot struck Naruto's jaw just as he was ready to punch that person out. The attack knocked him to his left, and he had to roll back up before the robots took advantage of him. Naruto stood back up and resumed his assault on the robots. One robot in the center fired a ki blast at him after he fired one at the robot on the far right. Naruto had to fire another blast after deflecting the first one with his other hand. In order to fight the other robots, Naruto made 9 shadow clones and charged another robot. One robot was left for Naruto to battle after the clones charged it. The robot threw a punch at Naruto, who ducked under it. One punch went through, but he leaned to the left and right to avoid more and more blows. He was pushed back when it struck him in the chest. When he looked up, the robot had closed the distance between them and was in the air, kicking his head with a flying kick as he knelt down in agony. Naruto was kicked and had no choice but to take the blow. He could have avoided the attack normally, but he wasn't as quick as usual because he was fighting in 3x gravity. Naruto skidded on the ground after launching himself back from the kick. Resuming his hand seals, he stood up. He exclaimed, "Water style. Water bullets jutsu," after he was done. After inhaling deeply, Naruto unleashed a barrage of water bullets. They moved ahead and struck the robot he had been battling. However, the robot managed to erect a ki shield. It began to fail after blocking the majority of the attack. Some of the water bullets still managed to hit it when it failed. It lost its balance and staggered back. Naruto seized the opportunity and charged ahead. Prepared to annihilate the creature, he pumped chakra into his left fist. However, Naruto erred by failing to observe the battles between his Cage Bunshin and the robots. If he had, he would have noticed that a robot had destroyed one of his Cage Bunshin and was now observing his fight. It observed Naruto charging energy into his fist using its sensors. The robot launched a ki blast at Naruto after charging energy into its hands. The blow struck Naruto squarely in the side. The second robot approached to engage the first in combat. When Naruto noticed that, he began to charge energy into his hand. That energy developed into a ball that floats off his palm. Then, shouting, "Spirit Ball attack!" He hurled the ball at his opponents. The assault continued. As Naruto had predicted, the robots threw up ki shields to block the attack. He gestured for the spirit ball to move around the robots with his middle and index fingers. Naruto had the attack go around the robots and explode because their ki shield did not extend around their backs. The force of the attack blasted the robots forward. Once more, Naruto pumped energy into his hand. The energy became dark blue this time. Power Blitz! He shouted as he allowed the attack to continue. As it advanced, the mini attack grew larger until it struck one robot and exploded through the armor plating. The robot exploded due to the blast's extreme force. With a kick, Naruto charged the other robot. The robot punched him after rolling out of his way. After blocking it, Naruto used a right hook in retaliation. The robot ducked beneath it and gave Naruto a gut punch. The robot gave Naruto an uppercut as he retreated from the pain. He flew through the air after the uppercut. Naruto returned to the earth and landed in a tiny crater. He began to see how the battle was going for him after he stood up. Since all of his cage bunshin were destroyed, it wasn't good. He noticed that he was now being approached by the 9 robots. With his hands cupped behind his body, Naruto rose to his feet. Between them, he began to charge up energy. Ka! The forward momentum began to build. Me! The vitality turned bluish. Ha! The energy ball began to grow in size. Me! The ball expanded to its maximum size. Ha! He released the Kamehameha wave, which blasted the robots that were attacking. By using their sensors to detect the energy accumulation, the robots were able to launch ki shields. They were shielded from the attack by the ki shields. In an attempt to destroy the robots, Naruto continued to add energy to the attack. Each robot was blasted as the attack continued to blast forward, causing the robots' energy shields to give out. The 4 that were closest to the explosion were destroyed right away. Naruto was unaware of the Outward 5's survival. There was so much smoke that he was unable to see when he released the attack. Through the smoke, Naruto missed one of the 5 remaining robots blasting him. Naruto barely avoided the attack as it sailed forward. Then he took to the skies and flew up. More energy was pumped into his left hand. The robots all blasted Naruto after detecting the energy buildup. Naruto deflected the robots' energy attacks with his right hand. Riot Javelin! Naruto exclaimed as he released his left hand, which was glowing a vivid blue with energy. One of the robots was struck by the attack and destroyed. Naruto had no time to attack because the final 4 continued shooting at him. Naruto created a skin-tight bubble around himself by manipulating his ki. Then he charged at the final robots. The ki attacks began to bounce off the shield, but it soon began to malfunction. When he got to one of the robots, he ripped its head off by letting his chakra enhanced fist strike its chin. However, Naruto had no time to relax because the other robots began to blast him. Naruto was hit by all of their attacks, and his shield failed. Naruto managed to overcome the agony of the blasts sufficiently to fly. The attacks followed him as he flew around the GR. Naruto used his favorite jutsu as the attacks followed him. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. After creating 10 more clones, Naruto had them all fan out. Each clone was blasted by the robots, but the clones used the afterimage technique, so the ki blasts only went through air. Naruto and the other 2 clones were on the ground, moving too quickly for the robots' sensors to follow them, while 8 of the clones were teasing the robots. Naruto began to infuse each palm with energy. The clones were performing hand seals while he was doing that. They stopped when they were both ready. 2 of the robots stopped the 2 clones. Naruto came to a halt at 2. The clones launched their assault. With a shout of Fire Style, Grand Fireball Jutsu, one exhaled a massive ball of flame. Wind Style, Great Breakthrough, was screamed by the other clone, causing the Grand Fireball to grow in size and destructive strength. The robots were blasted and burned to dust as the attacks continued. With a shout of Double Riot Javelin, the original Naruto released his attacks. The 2 robots were totally destroyed by the attack, and the cleaning robot was left to pick them up as scrap. Naruto noticed that he had finally vanquished the final robot when he turned to look around. He exhaled deeply, allowing the fight's adrenaline to finally subside. The chakra helped him feel a little better as he reabsorbed the Kage Bunshin's power. He went to a special room in the lab after leaving the GR. They kept their regeneration tanks there. Naruto strolled past Regen Tank 1 to the computer. Naruto saw that he and his team had to depart in 2 hours when he checked the time. For 1.5 hours, he set the GR. Senzu beans didn't feel as good as Regen tanks, but he could have used one to heal himself. Since the green fluid that filled the Regen tanks also contained a mild sleeping drug to put the person inside to sleep, He could take a good nap there. Additionally, he experienced a sense of relief as his body healed. After donning the black oxygen mask and lying down in Region Tank 1, Naruto allowed the tank to perform its function. Underscore. Naruto exited the Region Tank after resting there and proceeded to his apartment. He snatched up his shuriken, his kunai, and everything else he needed. In order to get some senzu beans, he then hurried back to the lab. I have the impression that we will require a large quantity of these, he reflected. As the team was ready to depart, Naruto dashed to the west gate. However, Kakashi set out a schedule before they left. They needed to reach the rain and fire border at least halfway by the first night. They were headed for the border in a straight line. At the very least, they had to arrive by the second day. On the third day, they would take a diagonal route, pass through Aim, and arrive at the Sand Country border. They would circle back to the boundary between Bird and Wind on the last day. He ordered everyone to leave when no one objected. While they were traveling, Neji said, "Naruto, you seem to have more information on the Golden Dragons than anyone else. I think it would be best if you told us what you know, so we know what we're getting into." Naruto stated, "The Golden Dragons are a bunch of bandits. They're made up of a bunch of missing nin, who usually controls the group. They're multinational, so it'll be hard to destroy the entire group. They completely control the black market in Kusa no Kuni. They plan on taking a hidden village, then another until they control them all. I infiltrated their base in K's when I was there, and I heard that they would try to take Kusagakure first since it's the closest. I also heard rumors that they were doing experiments on some people there." Like most of the people on the mission, Sasuke listened to their conversation. They were all curious to learn how Naruto came to know what he did. Sasuke entered the discussion at that point and said, "Well, we know that it wasn't a rumor now. When we went on that Kiano mission 2 months back, the people had weird powers. One guy could manipulate chakra to do just about everything he wanted it to. He could push something or someone who was nowhere close to him. He could pull them, and make a chakra shield around himself. I threw kunai and shuriken at him, and he stopped them in midair. Then he turned them on me and they almost sliced me to ribbons. And that was just what I saw when I fought him." Naruto stated, "The guy the first fought was almost twice as strong as me. And he moved faster than I've ever seen anyone else move. The only way I beat him was because I was faster than him." He said that their division was called Hydra. He also said that the guy that Lee's dad was fighting could heal from any injury without a scratch. If they can make an entire army like that, I don't think it would be possible to defeat them. Neji replied, "But you two beat them and you're just genin." Naruto was saying, "Neji, here's a little advice. Don't make assumptions based on rank. When the Yondaime was a chunin, he had more power than the old man did in his prime. The Yondaime took on an entire army by himself, won, and lived to tell about it. Trust me, ranking doesn't mean shit." Neji was about to protest, but changed his mind. It had only been 2 months since Naruto became a genin. For more than a year, Neji had been won. Neji lost their battle. Given his greater experience, it would appear that Neji would prevail, but Naruto was no typical genin. Upon reflection, he realized that neither he nor Naruto were normal. Neji responded, "You are right, ranking doesn't mean everything. But still, how did you defeat them?" Naruto cracked a grin and said, "I do push-ups and sit-ups and drink lots of juice. I love that line from when Vegeta said it to Cell when they fought. I also trained my ass off until I passed out every." Neji was going to ask more questions, but he noticed that Naruto was unwilling to respond. Knowing he would not get anywhere with the subject, he dropped it. They made their way to the border as fast as they could while traveling in silence. They arrived halfway to the Aim Fire border that evening. Sasuke, Lee, and Naruto left their camp that evening to train. Lee made another attempt at Super Saiyan before they began. He began to call forth his energy once more. In an attempt to become a Super Saiyan like his father, he called upon it more and more. But despite his best efforts, he was unable to succeed, but he felt something just before he gave up. He accepted it even though he had no idea what it was. When he was unable to summon it, he compelled the power to arrive. Sasuke and Naruto were attempting to assist Lee while observing him. Both of them experienced that strange power, but Naruto recognized it right away. Naruto was saying, "Lee, force out that power. Use everything you've got. That's it." In order to overcome the obstacle preventing him from becoming Super Saiyan, Lee seized the power. He knew that this was the power when it flooded his system. He leapt into the air after glancing at Naruto. He screamed, "I finally did it, I achieved Super Saiyan." Sasuke and Naruto were watching the scene in disbelief. Sasuke replied, "Naruto, I thought you had pupils when you went Super Saiyan." Naruto gave a head nod. "Yeah, you're right. Sasuke replied, I know that your hair's supposed to change to blonde. Naruto closed his eyes and focused on Lee's power level, saying, it should. I think I know what's going on. He noticed that it made a tremendous leap. For Super Saiyan, though, it was insufficient. Lee's appearance was also incorrect. Lee's lavender colored hair was still blowing in the aura. Induced wind. He also lacked irises and pupils in his eyes. There was also a yellowish glow about his body. Lee's parade was cut short when Naruto yelled, Lee, hold up. Lee said, what? After glancing at Naruto. According to Naruto, you didn't unlock Super Saiyan. Lee gave Naruto a perplexed look. He replied, what are you talking about? I can feel the power, it's amazing. You guys said that I feel more powerful than I ever had before, and I do. There's no way that this isn't Super Saiyan. Naruto stated, the transformation you're in isn't Super Saiyan. You partially unlocked it. You're in a false Super Saiyan transformation. Your power has been multiplied by 5. In a real Super Saiyan transformation, it's 50 times. What you unlocked was a small fraction of Super Saiyan power. You're on the right track, but just not there yet. Lee's head hung after listening to Naruto. He had spent so much time and effort trying, and it blew up in his face right when he thought he had it. He unconsciously dropped the transformation to false Super Saiyan because he felt so weak. Naruto replied, come on, Lee. Reaching this is a good achievement. You can use false Super Saiyan until you unlock the real one. Besides, you've unlocked 5x your normal power. That's something to be extremely proud of. Barely any Saiyans could unlock even 1/10 of the power we have right now. Before it was destroyed, the strongest Saiyan on planet Vegeta was your ancestor, King Vegeta, and his power level was just 50,000. You now have a power well over 1 million, and you're feeling bad? Do you know that most Saiyans would chop off their arms for the power you have now? You should feel damn proud of yourself. Lee's head lifted once more upon hearing that. Lee sighed and bowed his legs once more, beginning to gather energy. Okay then. Maybe I can access that mode again. He sensed the obstacle preventing him from moving forward and made another attempt to get past it. He discovered that although he was successful, the power was rapidly diminishing. Both the energy that the false Super Saiyan form released and the energy that left him were sensed by Naruto. Naruto replied, Lee, keep a hold on the energy. You have to keep it in yourself before it leaves. Eventually, Lee managed to maintain the energy in his body by focusing. Like the last time, it was 5x. Naruto was saying, good Lee. Now let's see you put that energy to use. Naruto spoke, then rushed Lee. He threw a punch, but Lee was able to lean to the right and avoid it thanks to the extra force from FSSJ. Lee's nose was struck when Naruto brought his left knee to his face. Though it didn't do much damage, Lee's head jerked up in agony. Lee asked, is that the best you got? After glancing at Naruto. Lee was kicked in the middle by Naruto. After successfully blocking the blow, Lee was able to block Naruto's subsequent punch. Lee leapt forward after pushing Naruto out of his way. He shouted, Leaf Whirlwind, as he turned in midair and emerged with his left foot. Naruto's left side of his face was struck by the foot. The attack knocked Naruto to his right, spinning him around in midair. Naruto spun around in midair but managed to catch himself and levitate 1 foot away from the ground. After standing up straight, Naruto began launching ki blasts at Lee. Lee was able to deflect and block every attack with ease. Damn, thought Naruto, false Super Saiyan has really improved Lee's fighting skills. I am unable to hit him at all. Lee sped in Naruto's direction, prepared to strike. He performed a leaf whirlwind on Naruto. Naruto was fortunate to have suspicions about that and to have made an afterimage to leave there. After resurfacing behind Lee, Naruto launched a charged ki blast in Lee's direction. Lee attempted to deflect the attack when he saw it coming toward him. He was struck when the attack exploded. Naruto charged Lee once more, attempting a battle using only taijutsu. He kicked Lee in the face after punching him in the chest and then in the face. None of those were dodged or blocked by Lee. He treated the assaults as if they were taps. He caused Naruto to fall backwards by punching him in the face. Naruto got up and said, damn, that was strong. If you can learn to access that level of strength without the negative effects of Super Saiyan, you could really do some damage. You could probably do this mission by yourself. But come on, we gotta get some rest. They arrived at their campsite, set up their tents, and fell asleep. They needed to be ready for the world of trouble that lay ahead of them tomorrow. Dawn the following day. It was time to leave as soon as the sun's first rays appeared over the horizon. The genin were awakened by Guy's shout of youth. Within a minute, they had left their tents. The genin were all packed and prepared to leave in 5 minutes. Well, everyone but Sakura. She was still asleep. Tenten was sent in there to wake her after they waited for her to wake up. Tenten was unable to rouse her. Tenten said, "I can't seem to get her awake," as he emerged. Guy said, "Kakashi, doesn't she get enough sleep?" as he turned to face her. According to Kakashi, beats me. Guy turned away from Kakashi and gazed thoughtfully off into the distance. She is now a genin. She shouldn't sleep so soundly. She should have no trouble waking up. She would have to be able to do that. Didn't Kakashi tell her? With a sidelong glance at Kakashi, Guy asked, "Why didn't he?" "Move out of the way, Tenten. There's nothing like the heat and smoke of a fire to wake someone up in the morning," Naruto said after Tenten attempted to wake Sakura once more. After performing his well-known hand seals, Naruto exclaimed, "Fire style, grand fireball jutsu," and a massive fireball erupted from his mouth, setting Sakura's tent on fire. He stated, "Just wait. She'll come out soon. Or get burnt in the fire. Both options are winning for us." Sakura screamed and bounded out of the tent before a minute had gone by. She noticed that everything she had brought on this trip was on fire when she turned around. Before everything burned, she could only get her rations. Her tent was burned, and she watched in horror. Then, without hesitation, she turned to Naruto and made every effort to murder him. Naruto laughed at her while avoiding all of her blows. He replied, "Why are you attacking me, Sakura? I'm not the only one here who knows a fire jutsu." Sakura attempted to hit him with a right hook, saying, "I know you did it because you did it the last time too." "Yeah, I did do it then. And now, and I did it those other 5 times, Naruto said, closing his eyes and avoiding another blow. Tenten watched in astonishment. "He set her tent on fire 7 times? She asked, turning to face Sasuke. Sasuke grinned and replied, "Yeah. All because she never woke up on time. You'd think that she'd either learn to get up on time, or by flame. Retardant tents." "Is that right?" Tenten asked, her eyes narrowing in befuddled confusion. Sasuke replied, "No, it isn't right for Naruto to burn her stuff like that. But he's trying to teach her that she can't stay asleep through a wake-up call like that. All he's doing is burning her tents. If there was a real fight, she'd be getting raped right now, and killed afterward. So while it isn't right to burn her stuff, he's doing it to teach her a lesson." Tenten responded mockingly, "Yeah." Sasuke replied, "It's either that or Naruto takes pleasure in burning all her stuff. I think it's the second choice." With a laugh, Neji remarked, "Sure as hell seems like it. Come on guys, we're burning daylight and we have to get there in 3 days, and I don't want to be late," Kakashi said after her tent had finished burning. The group took the trees and left right away, moving at full ninja speed. Sakura complained about her tent, but only Neji, Tenten, and Guy listened. "Kakashi, Naruto just burned Sakura's things. Are you sure you should allow them this much leeway?" Guy asked, turning to face Kakashi. Kakashi sighed and replied, "Listen Guy, how you teach your team is different from how I teach mine. If Sakura doesn't get up at the right time and it was an enemy attack, she could die. I tried to tell her to wake up, but she didn't. Eventually, Naruto set her tent on fire." Guy replied, "But Kakashi, burning her stuff, doesn't that seem a little extreme?" Kakashi spoke with a stern tone. "I would reprimand Naruto, but if it takes Sakura's stuff burning for her to realize that she has to get up when I say to, then that's what will happen. No questions asked." Guy briefly closed his eyes in contemplation, but he was still able to hop on the trees. He stated, "I understand why you're letting it happen, but I still think you're being a bit too hard. They're genin." "Guy, death doesn't spare people because of rank," Kakashi remarked, turning to face Guy. Guy was going to add something more, but she decided against it because she didn't want to argue with Kakashi anymore. Though he understood Kakashi's perspective, Neji also had similar thoughts. She needed to mature and learn how to stop acting like a child. Though she was mentally scolding Sakura, Tenten remained silent. Because of women like Sakura, kunoichi were denigrated and perceived as inferior to shinobi. She focused on how she looked and how she presented herself. It didn't bother Tenten, but Sakura's ninja abilities suffered. Her appearance was more important to her than her obligation to her village. Tenten was sick of being perceived as weaker because she was a girl. And kunoichi like her were damaging kunoichi's reputation everywhere. The boys made more attempts to assist Lee that evening. Lee's body was rapidly becoming accustomed to the strain, and it was harmed by having 5 times his normal power surge through it. But because of the Saiyan's innate capacity for advanced healing, he was able to gradually strengthen himself in addition to repairing the damage. Lee had been practicing accessing his mode by repeatedly turning it on and off. Naruto had a suspicion that if Lee continued at his current rate, he would be able to use the powerful transformation with a single thought in 2 weeks. "Naruto, How about a little spar? Lee asked, turning to face Naruto. Naruto said, didn't we spar last night? As he turned to face Lee. Not at Super Saiyan. Lee grinned and said, come on, I want to see where I stand against you. As Naruto put it, you sure Lee? You could get hurt. Lee replied, don't worry, anything you can dish out I can take. You're going to regret those words, Naruto said. Good luck. Don't kill each other. I don't want to explain to the senseis about how you two dumbasses died, said Sasuke, who was present the entire time. Music. Points of Authority by Linkin Park. Naruto focused and grabbed for Super Saiyan's strong and well-known power. In just 5 seconds, he pushed the power out. Lee changed as quickly as he did. He also changed in 5 seconds. Naruto and Lee suddenly charged at one another. Lee apparently had the same idea as Naruto, who punched him in the head. Naruto released his right fist, and Lee released his left. They pushed each other's fists in a power struggle as their fists collided in midair. In an attempt to make it easier for them to throw punches, Naruto and Lee bent and spread their legs. Lee decided that something had to be done because Naruto was getting the upper hand. Raising his foot, he made contact with Naruto's temple. Naruto unintentionally let his guard down as he backed up from the pain. Lee rushed forward right away and used a leaf hurricane to strike Naruto. The blow knocked Naruto off balance. Naruto straightened up and levitated off the ground before he hit it. After fading away, he reappeared and struck Lee in the chest. He then kicked Lee in the face and punched him once more. Lee recovered fast enough to deflect a blow intended for his chest. Then he ducked under one kick and blocked another. Yelling, "Leaf violent wind!" he twisted around on the ground and swept Naruto's feet out from under him. Naruto collided with Lee's foot, "Leaf rising wind!" shouted Lee, who then kicked Naruto in the chin, launching him 20 feet into the air. As Lee leapt to Naruto's place, he punched Naruto repeatedly in the abdomen. When Lee moved behind Naruto, he was unable to resist the excruciating pain in his chest. After that, Lee launched a roundhouse to Naruto's right and left sides. After flying to Naruto's front, he kicked him in the chest, sending him hurtling to the ground. Lee began flying in Naruto's direction at the same speed as Naruto was descending. He concentrated on his right hand. His hand began to glow yellow. Lee shouted, "Konoharaken," and buried his fist in Naruto's chest as he fell to the ground, right on top of Naruto. Naruto was buried 10 feet deeper by his fist. Lee began firing ki blasts into the ditch while 10 feet in the air. When Sasuke noticed, he whistled. Lee ain't playing today, he thought. Naruto is his target, and he is searching for blood. Lee was shooting Naruto innumerable ki blasts. Every blast struck his target, inflicting more pain on Naruto. Lee then unleashed a super ki blast, striking Naruto with it. However, the blast had an unanticipated consequence. The rock surrounding Naruto was ruptured by the blast. They were released by that blast, falling in on Naruto and encircling him. Sasuke gazed in disbelief at what transpired. "Lee, what the hell did you do?" he asked, glancing at Lee. Lee replied, "The hell if I know, that was an accident." When they heard the ground begin to tremble, they were both concerned for their friend's safety. Then a primal yell reached them. They noticed yellow light emanating from Naruto's makeshift grave. Then they heard a loud explosion as Naruto emerged from the grave and destroyed every rock. He lunged toward Lee and punched him squarely. Lee was knocked out of the sky by the attack. While Lee was falling, Naruto fired a charged ki blast at him. The half Saiyan recovered and landed as he was falling toward the ground, just as the ki blast was about to reach him. With one hand, Lee managed to catch the attack. He sent it back at Naruto after charging it with his own energy. Thinking fast, Naruto charged up another and hurled it at Lee. Both were destroyed when the attacks collided in midair. Lee vanished and then reappeared above Naruto as he charged at him. Lee smashed it with both hands and struck it with Naruto's head. The impact of Naruto's fall to the ground left a massive crater in its wake. In an instant, Lee was at Naruto's side, charging back down. He struck Naruto's face with 3 punches. The final one passed through and made contact with Naruto's face after the first 2 were blocked. Naruto leapt back and launched a ki blast at Lee's head just as he was about to launch another attack. Lee was not seriously hurt by the blast, but it did connect. Lee nearly struck Naruto in the face with his own ki blast. Leaning back, Naruto used his right hand to catch it. Naruto threw ki back at Lee after focusing it on the blast. The ki blast struck Lee's chest more forcefully and with greater speed. The ball of ki blasted Lee backwards, but he managed to stop himself. Lee pumped energy into his left index finger and right hand. Another ki blast went off from his right hand. In case he needed to use a precise ki beam, he had charged his left index finger. The ki beam that followed the ki blast was too strong for Naruto to avoid. He was thrown backwards as it made contact with his stomach. Naruto stood up, only to be struck in the face by a ki beam the size of a palm. His face was burned and he was knocked backwards by the attack. After landing, Naruto rolled back. He stood up and fell asleep. He came back up to Lee and punched him. Lee anticipated a punch and blocked. However, none arrived. When he looked, he saw that Naruto had punched him in a transparent, spectral form. He thought, afterimage. He kept a Gaelic gun charged in case something happened, and he charged energy into both hands. He began searching for Naruto but was unable to locate him. He glanced in front of him, behind him, left, and right. It hit Lee like a ton of bricks as he began to imagine where Naruto would be. He's capable of flying. It was too little, too late when Lee looked up. Naruto unleashed a Kamehameha wave on Lee after fully charging it. Lee had just a half-second to fire his Gaelic gun, and he succeeded. Too close to Lee for comfort, the Kamehameha attack rained down and struck Lee's Gaelic gun. Lee lost his footing due to the shockwave from the two attacks. He retreated, but he caught himself by levitating. How he pushed against the Kamehameha with his back on the ground. Naruto was slightly knocked back by the shockwave, but it didn't do much. It's time to end this, Naruto thought as the attacks pushed past one another. He yelled and gathered the remaining energy, directing it into the Kamehameha. Lee's attack was swallowed up by the assault. Lee's only option was to attempt pushing it back further, but this was unsuccessful. Naruto was completely destroyed following the attack. He threw most of his strength into that assault. He detested using the Kamehameha because of this. It was really exhausting. When he landed, he saw that Lee was rising from his deep bruises. "You okay, Lee? You're not hurt, are you?" asked Naruto. "No, I feel fine. What about you?" said Lee as he got to his feet. Naruto replied, "Perfect, but we might need to heal our injuries." Sasuke replied, "Maybe you two should fly back to Konoha. Go to the lab and sleep in the region tanks for the night. I'll tell everyone that you two just got tired and slept at the training ground. Knowing you two training dummies, they'll believe me." "Why don't we just use senzu beans?" asked Naruto. Naruto was staring at Sasuke. "Didn't you say we might need them for this mission? It won't be good for them to all be gone because you two got crazy with your training. If you're not back by morning, I'm telling the others to leave you too." With a roll of his eyes, Naruto said, "Okay then." After that, Naruto and Lee left, returning to the group the following morning. After doing some of his own training, Sasuke fell asleep. They reached their goal 2 days later. When they arrived in the early hours of the morning, they were greeted by the Suna siblings. The Suna siblings all reacted differently to Naruto's appearance. After losing their most recent fight, Kankuro felt a little envious. However, he was glad to see Naruto because he had previously assisted them and they were in dire need of his assistance. Temari was thrilled to see him once more. She wanted to spend more time with him because her feelings for him had grown since she last saw him. She also wanted to know how strong he had grown. Gaara was pleased to see Naruto as well. He even flashed a tiny smile. Shukaku had been displaying something that Gaara had assumed he would never witness since Naruto and Shukaku's battle. Fear. During their final battle, Naruto severely injured Shukaku. Shukaku could regenerate, but the pain became so severe that even after they healed, they could still feel the hits and attacks. Shukaku has been letting Gaara sleep in the hopes that something similar won't happen because, from what Gaara could tell, he never wanted to experience that again. If you're wondering why, the answer is simple. Shukaku is an animal, and since his brain is more developed than that of other animals, he knows what he must do to avoid the pain. Naruto approached each of the Suna siblings and shook their hands. "Hey Gaara, is your furry little problem causing you any trouble?" he asked. Gaara replied, "No actually. Since you gave me that medicine, aka ass whooping, the problem has really gone down. I can even get some rest." Gaara said this, clearly understanding what he meant. Naruto stated, "You'd still better be careful. The medicine is very special and I can't give it to you if I'm not there in enough time to help." Gaara replied, "Don't worry about it. Hopefully I can keep it under control." There, the other Konoha ninja became acquainted with the Suna siblings while Naruto and Gaara conversed. Temari and Kankuro gasped when they heard Naruto and Gaara conversing. Their brother Gaara never spoke to them more than 3 words. However, he was conversing with a foreigner named Naruto. "Naruto, just what are you exactly?" Temari asked herself. Maeda Guy stood up and commented, "Even though you four want to get acquainted, We don't have time right now. We need to know what you know about the enemy. We've been here for a week, and we've tried to infiltrate the base, but every time we do, they find out about our spy, and we find his dead body in the streets. What we do know, however, is that their leader, Midori, is a missing nin from Kusa who was the feudal lord's personal bodyguard. He broke into the lord's vault and stole millions of dollars because he wanted more money, and then he fled the country, and our information on him dried up, but all of a sudden, he reappeared as one of the golden dragons. We know he carried a sword, but we lost information on him 3 years ago, so a lot could have changed. One of our spies was able to tell us that he still had a sword, but that was all he could get. We are aware that they primarily work out of a chain of buildings. One is used for the production of weapons, another for the production of drugs, and a number of other buildings for various purposes. Naruto is necessary because of this. When they were in Wind Country, he was our inside spy. We're hoping that he can get more information by infiltrating them once more on our behalf. Additionally, since there are more people here than we anticipated, we could likely let more in. We probably could do it, Naruto said, sitting on the ground and assuming a contemplative pose. Sasuke, Lee, Tenten, and me if he dyes his hair. Given that Neji always wears his headband and possesses the Byakugan, this could raise suspicions. Lee, Tenten, and I won't be identified because we don't belong to any clan. They might not believe Sasuke is a member of the Uchiha clan if he dyes his hair. Sakura won't be able to do it because she isn't very good at lying. After giving it some thought, Tamari remarked, "That seems about right, but you must know if you do this. The one back in Wind Country is smaller than this one. Both in terms of numbers and skill, these guys blew the others away. All of you must be able to maintain your cover. You could die if you trip for even a moment." With a sigh, Tamari responded to the nods from Naruto, Sasuke, Lee, and Tenten. "Well, if you're so adamant on it, we need their security schedules, their defenses, the weapons they use, and how many of them there are." When Tamari saw that they were determined to complete this mission, she looked into their eyes and they all nodded once more. "Okay then, they have a base a few miles from here. Why don't we just enter and blow up their base?" said Naruto. "It seems like it would be simpler to do that." "Because we're not all one-man armies like you and Lee are," Sasuke stated. "We must find a way to kill as few people as possible." "All right," Naruto said with a fake pout. "We will obtain the desired information, however, it might not be simple." Tamari responded, "Come on, I'll show you where the base is." As Tamari left their base, Naruto, Sasuke, Lee, and Tenten followed. Once outside, Naruto lifted Tamari in the bridal carry and took to the skies, while Lee followed suit with Tenten. Following Tamari's instructions, the 5 of them landed 300 yards from the Golden Dragon's stronghold, which was far from the closest town and remote enough that they didn't have to worry about anyone snooping on them. When Naruto saw it, he whistled and remarked, "Damn, that's a big place. They've connected about 50 buildings. How are we going to defeat them?" "I'm seriously reconsidering your idea of blowing it all to hell," Sasuke said, glancing at Naruto. "How will we get inside of them?" "Everyone who joins the group must pass an initiation test," Tamari stated. "You will all experience that. They'll let you in after that. However, you must first travel to the closest town. You must track down their undercover recruiters and engage in combat with a local. After that, they will come up to you and invite you to join their group. You will then have to take the initiation test if you accept." "I suppose we'll have to leave our headbands with our senseis," Tenten remarked. "We'll be identified more quickly if we take them." After grabbing Tamari, Naruto flew to their base, followed by Lee, Tenten, and Sasuke. They dropped Tamari off with their headbands and she gave them the directions to the closest town, which they then went to on foot. However, before they arrived, Naruto stopped Sasuke and took a spray can out of his back pocket. Then he removed the bandana from his forehead and instructed Sasuke to cover his eyes with it, sprayed his hair with the spray can, and when his hair was completely blue, he took out a washcloth and began wiping away the part of the spray can that got on Sasuke's skin. Once he made it appear to be real, he removed his bandana and they continued. Tenten said, "Guys, do you know how we're supposed to draw attention?" "We could fight the police and damage some things," Sasuke said. "That will travel around town in no time. It will probably reach their recruiters in a short time." "That sounds good," Lee said. "My goal has been to blow some shit up." "But we can't use jutsu," Tenten stated. "There will be too much suspicion if we do. And ninja weapons like kunai and shuriken are left everywhere," Naruto remarked. "Nobody will be suspicious if we use those." "How about our key attacks?" Lee asked. "They may have a connection to jutsu," Tenten said. "You 3 are unable to utilize them." "That's awful," Naruto said. Kicking some ass will at least lift my spirits. So, do we just go in and break things or do we steal money from the shops? Lee asked. We might as well profit a little from this, Sasuke remarked. Once the police have taken notice, we flee to the town center and engage in combat. That will attract a lot of interest. Let's do it then, Lee said. The guy at the front of the store said, hello, and the foursome went toward the closest store and went inside. How can I assist you? With a kunai drawn, Naruto approached the man and put it to his throat before declaring, yeah, you can empty the cash register. The man could only follow their instructions with a kunai at his throat, and when he opened the cash register, Tenten took everything, stuffed it into an unmarked storage scroll, and walked away, with the other following. Before they left, a store employee who had witnessed the incident grabbed a broom and attempted to strike Naruto in the back. Naruto felt the man approaching, but he did nothing and allowed the blow to strike him, shattering the broom. Unfazed, he turned around and gazed at the man, mentally telling the Kyuubi, send a little chakra to my eyes. That's exactly what the Kyuubi did, turning Naruto's eyes blood red with a black pupil slit. The man who was staring into Naruto's eyes saw the transformation, flinched, and fell backwards. Naruto laughed evilly and went out with his friends. They followed the same pattern at each store and soon had over $20,000. After about 20 stores, the police finally caught them. They had just robbed another store and were leaving when they were told to put their hands where they could see them. Naruto said, let's go. And they ran down an alley and found a ladder to the top of a building. As they ascended the ladder, the police were right behind them. One of the officers took out a shuriken and threw it, but Tenten deflected it easily, and she continued to move, with the others following. They moved from rooftop to rooftop, hopping from one to another, giving the impression that they were inexperienced. They repeatedly missed their target, requiring them to grab the ledge and pull themselves up. When they did, they purposefully fell or rolled over, giving the impression that they were inexperienced. They were attracting a lot of attention as they moved, with the entire city watching them and the police pursuing them. When they reached the heart of town, they were encircled by 5.0, and the pigs said, you have two options. Either the simple or complex method. And I pray to God that you decide to take the difficult route. Well, then, your prayers have been answered, Naruto grinned. Attack. The foursome pulled out kunai at Naruto's command and went to work on the police. Naruto ran and leapt into the air, flung two kunai at the arms of two officers, who clutched their arms in agony as Naruto descended and kicked them both in the head, knocking them out. He then removed the kunai from their arms and turned to face the next target. The following policemen both drew kunais. One struck Naruto in the head with a downward blow, and the other stabbed him in the chest. Naruto dodged the blows by jumping backward. Then he leapt forward and kicked a cop in the chest. Then he dodged a horizontal slash that was aimed at his neck and punched the cop in the nuts. When the cop fell to his knees in agony, Naruto grabbed his head and drove his knee into it, causing the cop to lose consciousness and not rise again. Eventually, tired of fighting the cops, Lee ducked their next attack, grabbed the man's arm to hold him in place, then moved to the man's head and smashed it into the ground. Lee avoided the cops' attacks, but intentionally allowed the faster ones to hit him to maintain the appearance that he was not a ninja. When he got up, he stepped on the man's foot, pulled one of his legs up, causing him to hit his head on the ground, and then Lee kicked him in the head, knocking him out, avoiding the next attack from the police. Sasuke smirked and repelled a policeman's attack, then sidestepped another one, grabbed the kick a policeman attempted to throw at him, pulled the man in a circle, then released him, causing him to fall to the ground. Sasuke then leapt on him, grabbing his foot, holding the heel in his right hand and the end in his left. If you've heard of Kurt Angle, you know what's coming up. After closing his eyes, Sasuke twisted the man's foot, felt the bone snap in his hand, and heard the man scream in agony. Sasuke then got back up and resumed fighting, avoiding a punch, grabbing the arm, forcing it straight, and placing his palm on the outside of the elbow. He then brought his hand back and forced it forward, breaking the man's elbow, causing him to scream before passing out from the agony. Tenten was using her kunai from a distance, clipping a man behind her, then sticking a kunai in his foot, then grabbing another one and throwing it at a police officer, causing the man to scream in agony as the kunai became lodged in his arm, then running forward, jumping, and kicking the man in the face. When the majority of the cops were eliminated, Naruto turned to look around and noticed that more and more were approaching, realizing that if they fought every cop, they wouldn't be able to maintain their disguise. Naruto turned to face the group and yelled, "Retreat." Naruto took a few smoke bombs from his pouch and threw them down as he and the others fled, and the plume of smoke that emerged provided them with an excellent cover to blend into the background. Naruto and the others took a short break after emerging from the deep water, and since they were in a dark alley, no one could see them. As they recovered, they received a visit from a man who appeared to be an average Joe based on the expression in his eyes. "I saw what you four did to those stupid cops." Lee squinted and uttered, "What about it?" "Oh, I don't want trouble," the man said. "Simply put, my boss is interested in allowing you to join after seeing what you did." Tenton appeared, saying, "Join what?" "One of the largest crime syndicates in the world," the man said with a smile. "It will be easy for you to double your current income. Additionally, you'll have a lot more damage to do." With a sly smile, Sasuke mentioned, "Tell your leader we'll join." With a smile, the recruiter said, "Good, now come with me." Following the recruiter, the four entered a dilapidated old warehouse on the far side of town, where they saw a number of octagonal stages 10 feet off the ground supported by steel poles. The stages were caged off, with only 2 locked doors leading out, and the octagonal rings were all white. Glancing around, Naruto exclaimed, "What the hell is this?" "Well," the recruiter said, laughing, "not everyone can join. Only those who can pass this test are accepted. In essence, you're in a free dot-for-dot-all cage with 15 other people. The final person to remain joins. Let's just say that whoever isn't has to be able to swim. It's a fight to the death. We can't go through with it," Naruto thought. "Yes," the Kyuubi told Naruto, "but I hope you all get different cages. There are 10 different cages. I hope you don't get the same one." "Listen," the man said. "You're fighting in cage 1, crazy hair," pointing to Naruto. Naruto sighed with relief, thinking, "Good. We can still go ahead with the plan." He then began to move away, heading to the cage where he was to fight. "Girly," the recruiter went on, pointing to Tenton, "you're in cage 5. Tenton went to the cage with the big 5 on it after leaving the boys. After giving Lee a cage, the recruiter said, "Purple hair," pointing at Lee. "You're in cage 7. Lee then departed, wishing Sasuke luck. "Duck ass," pointing at Sasuke. "You're in cage 4. With a moan, Sasuke said, "Piss off," and proceeded to the 4th cage. When they reached their cages, they discovered that there were other people there as well, and more people began to pour in. 2 of them were wearing black pants and a shirt with vertical stripes in white and black. The referees closed the doors and locked them after the recruiters gave the signal, and when the clock struck a specific time, they opened the doors and let the people into the octagonal rings. Music. My words are weapons, D12. The fighting started right away, with each person facing another. Naruto could have stayed with that guy and fought him, but he wanted to have a little fun, so he blocked the man's punch when he got close to him and then kicked him in the chest. When the guy fell to the ground, Naruto jumped on top of him and showed off a little bit of his true strength by starting to punch the man in the head with a left, then a right, then another left, and so on. As soon as the man Naruto was punching was bleeding, Naruto stopped and turned to face other people. He ran forward and leapt into the air, and as the 2 fighting men were about to strike each other, Naruto timed it perfectly and executed a butterfly kick with both of his feet out, nailing the 2 men in the chins. Naruto landed perfectly between the 2 men, and both of those men were staring at him angrily. The 2 men narrowed their eyes and charged at Naruto, who smirked and spread his hands palms down, then made a "come here" gesture with his palm facing up. When the 2 men were 2 feet away, Naruto turned to the man on his left and struck the man's mouth with his left fist, then spun around and struck the man's temple with his left foot, causing both men to fall to the ground. He would have seen the man on his left get back up if he had looked back. The man's mouth hurt like a motherfucker, but he managed to take it in and crawled toward the center of the cage, where weapons began to fall. He picked up the 5-foot staff that had fallen in the middle of the ring, got to his feet, and charged Naruto. As Naruto was searching for a fight to intervene in, he heard a slight tap. He turned to see one of the men he had defeated holding a broken staff in his hands. Naruto narrowed his eyes and used a small portion of his strength to punch the man in the gut, causing him to back up in shock and fall to the ground in agony. After noticing that one fight had escalated and joined 2 more, with 6 men now engaged in combat, Naruto smirked and approached the fight, tapped one of the men on the shoulder, who turned and threw a punch at him, which Naruto easily parried, and kicked the man, causing him to fall in the center of the ring. The next guy was hit in the back by Naruto, who then walked around him until he was in his face. Naruto then drew his foot back and extended it into the man's face, sending the fighter flying back like a rocket. The man fell forward on one knee in agony. When 2 other guys saw what Naruto was doing, they went for him. They decided in silence that 2 would be more effective against Naruto than 1 person alone, so they both began attacking him. Naruto ducked one guy's punch, but the other guy came and kicked him in the chest. Luckily, Naruto's skin was so hard that he barely felt the blow, and the person who kicked him felt a sharp pain from his foot. Naruto kicked the guy in the chest, bending him over, then grabbed his head and slammed his fist into it. The guy simply broke his foot on Naruto's chest, so Naruto ran forward and punched him in the chest, causing him to black out. Naruto then turned to face the guy with the broken foot, jumped, and twisted 360 degrees in the air, bringing his right foot up before sending it crashing into the guy's head, sending him toward the opposite side of the ring. Naruto sighed. These guys were simply too weak for him to enjoy fighting them. They were just regular thugs or punks, and lacked the strength to truly put up a fair fight. Naruto said to the Kyuubi, "I guess my little fun is over now," as he turned from his fight to see all the other competitors staring at him. They must have noticed him take out the other two with a single blow after he screamed in agony, and they all turned against him. "Just showed 10% of your true power and these guys are history," the Kyuubi said. "End this already." After following the Kyuubi's instructions and letting 10% of his power show, Naruto was able to defeat the 10 fighters who attacked him all at once. One of them attempted to tackle him, but Naruto put his fist out, and the guy cracked his skull on it. Another fighter then came up and punched Naruto in the face, causing his fist to cave in irregularly and causing him to start howling in pain. Naruto then leapt up and kicked him in the chest, followed by another. With Tenten looked around after the referees had locked the cages, and each of the men began staring at her lustfully. She frowned and thought, "Useless fuckers. Always thinking with their hormones. Well, they'll find out that this cat has claws. I know it's a cliché, don't bother me about it." As each of the men began pursuing her, Tenten leapt over their heads and landed on the opposite side of the cage. She took out a kunai from a pouch and hurled it at one of the men's necks, causing him to grab his neck in surprise and extract the weapon. A huge error. Tenten thought, one down. He passed out in a second, everyone knowing his fate, and he pulled out 2 more kunai, letting them fly and hitting their target, saying, 3 down. The kunai had punctured his jugular vein, but it was stopping the bleeding, and when he pulled it out, he caused the blood to come out. When the men saw her, they all became enraged. One of them exclaimed, "You bitch, what the fuck are you doing?" "Dude, it's a survival match," Tenten declared. "What are your thoughts?" "She sure does have a mouth, doesn't she?" smirked one of the guys. "Anyone got something to plug that up?" asked another man. At that point, every man said, "I do." After that, the man said, "Well then, let's do it." Tenten began to back off a bit as the guys drew closer to her. She couldn't possibly take 12 fully grown men at once, so she drew another kunai and threw it into the crowd, slicing one man's wrist, severing his artery and vein there and sending the gash all the way down to the bone. The man screamed in agony and grabbed his wrist, saying, 4 down. Tenten began scooting around the cage more and more as the guys grew closer and more frightening. Tenten thought about using one of her summoning scrolls and getting a weapon, but she told herself, "Don't think like that, Tenten. If you bring out a weapon, it might give away the fact that you're a ninja. But I'm too limited to win this. What can I do?" "Hey, that's it." Tenten leapt back, putting a great deal of distance between herself and the would-be rapists, and then she leaned down and felt the leg of her pants until she found a small opening, thinking, "There it is." Tenten pulled a black sheath with a handle out of the slit in her pants. Tenten thought, "Good thing I strapped that to my shin in case of something like this." Tenten pulled the handle of the blade out of the sheath. It turned out to be a sleek 10-inch dagger. I bet 200 of the people reading this expected me to say dildo or something. Tenten turned to the guys to see that they were looking a little scared. Tenten pulled out a kunai, smirked, and charged the guys. She jumped in the air, throwing the kunai at one of the men. It hit its mark, sticking in his neck. Tenten slashed the dagger out, catching one guy across his neck. She bent under a kick and pulled another kunai out. Another guy tried to punch her. Tenten leaned back, avoiding the punch by inches. The weapons master in training brought her dagger and kunai around, slicing the vein and artery of the man's outer forearm. She crouched down and turned around, clipping the man. He fell to his side, his head hitting the octagonal stage, knocking him unconscious. 7 down. Tenten turned and cut the throat of another man, then used her left hand to block his punch, then brought the kunai around and stabbed him in the forearm, cutting all the way to the bone, then forcing it forward, cutting more and more flesh until it reached the elbow, then pulling the blade out. The man screamed in agony, grabbing his forearm, and Tenten jumped and kicked him in the head, knocking him out. Tenten then ran toward another man with her dagger and plunged it in his belly, then dragged it down, tearing and cutting at his internal systems, before stopping and removing the blade. Tenten felt another man approaching from behind, so she turned slightly to her right, letting a kunai fly out and stab him in the throat. The man instantly fell, so Tenten ran at him and jumped on him, causing him to fall on his back. Tenten then brought her dagger around and stabbed him in the heart. Tenten got up and threw the kunai at another man, who moved his head slightly out of the way, but not completely, causing the kunai to severing his neck and causing him to bleed. 12 down. Tenten chased after the man and sliced him through the neck. When Tenten realized there were only 3 guys left, she reached for her kunai pouch in the hopes of ending this quickly. However, she didn't feel any more kunai, so she mentally cursed herself. Damn, I knew I should have taken more kunai. Tenten ran toward one of the last guys standing and attempted to cut him with the blade, but he leaned his head back and avoided the cut. The guy then came forward with a punch that was aimed at Tenten's head. Tenten rolled forward and got back up, then she turned around and stabbed the back of the guy's neck, paralyzing him for the rest of his life. 13 down. Tenten noticed another man charging at her, so she waited until he was directly in front of her, then stabbed him in the chest with the dagger. She searched for the last man, but he was too close for her to intervene, so he knocked her down, grinned, and gave her a leering look. Tenten then pointed her dagger at him, and the man thought, what the hell is she doing? Unfortunately for him, he was unaware of one of Tenten's special abilities built into the blade. First, making it stainless steel to cut through flesh. Second, making it balanced so it would be easier to carry. And third, making it spring-loaded so that she could use a tiny burst of chakra to make the blade shoot out and strike someone. Tenten got up and wiped the perspiration from her forehead. She saw that the referees had unlocked the cages, so she hurried out, prepared to get the fuck out of there. And that's exactly what she did. She shot the blade out, and it buried itself in the guy's throat. Song. D12. Fight music, with Lee. When the referees closed the gate, Lee dodged the kick that came his way. Lee blocked another punch that a person sent his way. The next punch, Lee caught the fist in his left hand. The guy tried to pull back but Lee held on strong. Lee brought his right knee up and buried it in the guy's chest. The man dropped to his knees in pain, his fist still in Lee's hand. Lee switched the grip, holding the man's fist in his right hand. The genin brought his left hand up in a karate chop position and aimed it at the guy's elbow. The guy, realizing what Lee was about to do, tried even harder to pull his fist back. He even tried to use his other hand to punch Lee, hoping to make Lee drop his grip. Lee didn't pay any attention to the hits. He put his hand on the guy's elbow and drew back. He brought it forward quickly, about to break the man's arm. The man screamed in pain, but Lee slowly tapped the man's arm. Lee chuckled to himself. He did it again, psyching out the guy. The third time Lee did it, he brought his chop down with true speed, breaking the man's arm. The guy screamed and howled in pain. Lee just kicked him in his head and sent him to La.La. Land. Upon noticing that every other person in the cage was engaged in combat with someone else, Lee scanned each fight to determine which one he should enter. He then ran forward, leapt into the air, and drop-kicked a man whose back was to him, causing him to stumble forward and strike his head against the cage. When Lee noticed that the other man was about to kick him, he grabbed the kick and threw the man to the cage wall, whereupon he slid off the wall face down. Lee then picked him up by the head and continued to slam his head against the cage wall until he noticed blood oozing out. Lee turned around and saw that 2 other men were down in addition to the 3 he had fought. One of the other men picked up a chain, and he snuck behind a person who was too preoccupied to defend himself, putting the chain around their neck and strangling them. Lee spotted a staff in the middle of the cage, picked it up, and went to a random fighter in the ring. He brought the staff around and placed it on the back of the fighter's head, hitting him so hard that he broke the staff on his head and knocked him out. Lee then went to the fighter and punched him in the stomach, sending him to the ground. Damn, I'm not supposed to use any ninja techniques. Fortunately, Lee caught himself and didn't say the name of the attack as he usually does. He hit the guy with the attack, sending him rocketing 10 feet to Lee's right, knocking himself and 2 other guys into the cage wall. Lee leapt into the air and twisted as the former spandex wearing ninja turned to another fighter and ran at him. Upon noticing that everyone was staring at him and that the person he had punched in the stomach and the person he had drop-kicked into the cage wall had both gone back up, Lee swore to himself and muttered, "I need to watch what I do." When Lee noticed that 4 of the other guys put up a fight and began to approach him, he waited until they were upon him. The 4 men circled him, about 2 feet away, each waiting for the other to attack. The first one was the one on Lee's left, and he attempted to punch Lee in the face. Lee felt him about to do so, so he leaned backwards with ease. The guy threw all of his weight behind the punch, so when Lee dodged, he began to stagger forward. Lee raised his left knee and made contact with the young man's stomach, causing him to fall to the ground, clutching his abdomen. Lee ducked and kicked the man's leg out from under him after he saw the guy on his right try to kick him in the head while the guy in front of him backed up somewhere. Unfortunately, the man's balancing leg was kicked backwards, and his kicking leg was still traveling where Lee's head was, so he fell into the splits, crushing any chance he had to procreate. The man screamed in agony, so Lee had to kick him upside the head to knock him out and put an end to his suffering. When the man on his new right attempted to sever Lee's head, he stood back up facing his old right and leaned back, ready to attack, but the man in front of him returned with a staff, and as Lee was still leaning back, the man brought the staff around and struck Lee in the face, causing no pain, but enough force behind it to knock Lee to the ground. When the man on Lee's left attempted to kick him in the face, Lee saw him and grabbed his foot, then shifted his grip until he had the man's heel and toes in his grasp. Lee then twisted his hands 180 degrees, crushing the man's ankle bones, rolling backward onto his knees before getting to his feet. Lee then kicked the man with his right foot in a crushing motion, knocking his nose out of place and knocking him unconscious. When the final man stepped forward and began slapping Lee with a flurry of punches and kicks, Lee instantly went on the defensive. Although he could easily block this man's blows, Lee noticed that the other two were beginning to pursue him, both of them with a steel pole and a staff. To make matters worse, the man he had just kneed in the stomach stood back up. When Lee noticed that there were 4 more people, and that they were all armed, he assumed a serious fighting stance. Rather than waiting for them to attack, Lee ran at the man in front of him, jumped, and brought his left hand back. The man he was about to fight had a staff in his left hand, and he swung it, but Lee raised his right arm and blocked it, leaving the man vulnerable to a punch to the face that would have put him to sleep. When he saw a man with a steel pole approaching from behind, Lee ducked beneath it, gave the unfortunate man a right uppercut to the chin, and then kicked him in the chest, pushing him back and causing him to drop the steel pole. When one of the last guys tried to hit him with a steel pole, Lee grabbed the 3-foot pole and connected it with the guy's head. He then brought the pole up in a guard to block the guy's pole, pushed it back, and kicked the guy in the chest. Lee then jumped forward and kicked the guy in the chest again, knocking him into the ring. Lee was about to turn around when he was struck by a staff, so he threw the pole at his head, which caused him to fall easily. Lee then proceeded toward the doors and exited the cages, leaving 15 grown men wondering how in the world a little kid had beaten them. Sasuke and Tenten had already finished when Lee emerged from the cage. Alongside Sasuke. When Sasuke saw the referees close the doors, he decided to start instead of waiting for someone to attack him. He ran at a random person and kicked them in the chest, and when the person got back up and began to attack him, Sasuke blocked the left punch that was aimed at his head, brought his right arm around in a block, knocked the punch off course, and then brought his right arm back around and gave him a backhand across the face. He then brought his right foot around and connected it with the man's hip, retracted his foot, but snapped it back up and connected it with the man's head. Sasuke turned to see that someone else was pursuing him, but he ducked under the guy's punch and swept his feet from under him. The guy then brought his foot around and kicked Sasuke in the face, causing him to twist in the air and hit the ground. Sasuke felt the guy punch him in the face, but he managed to push him off of him. Sasuke jumped on top of the man and focused chakra into his fist before punching him in the forehead. Knowing that the man was not going to get back up anytime soon, Sasuke got up and looked to see that 5 other people were also knocked out. The other people in the cage were fighting with weapons, so Sasuke took a head count and only counted 15 people. The 5 who were knocked out, the 2 he knocked out, and the others who were still awake, including himself. Out of instinct, Sasuke turned around and activated his Sharingan when he saw a man with a staff about to smash it into his head. Sasuke jumped to the side, narrowly avoiding the weapon, then ran forward and kicked the man in the face, knocking him into the cage wall. When the Sharingan was activated, Sasuke was able to see the man punching at him in slow motion as he ran forward, ready to attack with the staff. He ducked under the blow, brought the staff around, and struck the man in the stomach before bringing it down on his head. A second person tried to punch him from behind, but Sasuke ducked and tripped him with the staff. Sasuke beat everyone until he was the only one left, calmed down, turned off the Sharingan, and exited the cage to find Tenten had already finished her battle. The more people who attempted to fight him, the more they were dropped. When Naruto emerged from his cage, he was shocked to see that everyone else had finished as well. Sasuke and Tenten were perspiring a little, but they appeared fine, and Lee appeared to have done nothing. Other people who Naruto assumed were the winners of the other cages were standing there as well, and a random warehouse employee approached them and said, "Good, you all pass. Come to the back with me. We'll depart for the base from there. You won't get anything back, so don't leave anything here." The 10 individuals trailed the recruiter to the rear of the warehouse, where they all slipped out of the city and began the arduous journey to the Golden Dragon's base. They were relieved that the fighting was over, but their entrance had only just begun, and as they were fighting, they were being watched by strangers, who gathered and began discussing them after they left the warehouse. "What do you guys think of the fighters?" asked one of the guys. "There's something up with that kid," said the guy assigned to Naruto, while the other 4 were assigned to Lee, Sasuke, Tenten, and Naruto. 6 people made general remarks about the fighters they were supposed to watch. "I've never seen him fight like that before. All the guys were knocked out by him." "The girl is a master marksman," the person observing Tenten remarked. "She's very skilled at throwing knives. She used them to kill a number of people. A dagger was strapped to her shin as well. She took it out and used it to murder the others. She also has a certain quality. She was wearing many kunai. Why would she?" "That girl and 3 other guys were found together," the person watching Naruto stated. "They could be spying." Lee's assigned guy said, "I believe they are. That child's fighting style is similar to Strong Fist. He even employed one of its signature moves without mentioning its name. Maeda Guy is the only surviving Strong Fist master in existence. We now know that Konoha is where they are from." The man who was tasked with looking after Sasuke replied, "Yeah, and that kid I was assigned to is a Uchiha." Naruto's assigned person said, "You're sure?" According to the man assigned to Sasuke, "Yes, I am absolutely certain. I will always remember the Sharingan's appearance from my previous battle with Uchiha. I have no doubt that boy activated the Sharingan." "That's 4 spies from Konohagakure," the man assigned to Tenten said. "The final Uchiha is one of them. This might be enjoyable." The 4 teenagers were settling in at the base of the Golden Dragons after they had managed to get inside through the free dot for dot all. Naruto shared his experiences at their Wind Country settlement with the others en route. He claimed that the establishment was dilapidated and that the leaders appeared to be in dire need. Regretfully, this was not at all like the Wind Country one. None of these folks played. The 4 ninja were subjected to rigorous training as soon as they arrived. They were made to adhere to a prescribed training schedule. They were only allowed to sleep for 5 hours. Everything they ate was nutritious. The goal of this place was to help them get in the best physical condition possible. Additionally, they were going through a similar experience to that of the Konoha Shinobi Academy. They were teaching the populace how to incapacitate an adversary. They were teaching explosive notes and how to hold and throw kunai. They were being instructed in the fundamentals of taijutsu. This location was an imitation of a ninja training ground. The number of parallels was startling. She began to wonder why the place was like that after Tenten pointed out the similarities. The somber response from Sasuke was, "They're preparing for a war." Guy and Kakashi needed to be informed that they were getting ready for war. Naruto made a cage bunshin at the end of that first day and instructed it to go to the Suna siblings' base and inform them of his discovery. It was too risky for him to leave the base himself. The base officials checked people's rooms at random to make sure they hadn't snuck out. A cage bunshin would have to suffice because Naruto himself would be too risky to sneak out. In order for the shadow clone to use a henge and change into any random person, he gave it a lot of chakra. In this manner, someone else would be held accountable rather than him if the clone was discovered. The clone could also use some of his speed to escape with all that chakra. The clone shocked Guy and Kakashi by telling them what he had discovered. They recently broke into an army training center. They would be mercilessly killed if apprehended. Kakashi said to the clone, "The genin can't get caught. If they do, they might as well kiss their asses goodbye. They have to realize the seriousness of the situation. Also, tell Naruto and the others to be quick about getting their information." Guy stopped the clone as it turned to return to the base after saying, "All right, Guy. Sensei. I'll tell them that. Why don't you just dispel?" asked Guy. "If I do that, then the boss won't know what you guys have said. Then they might mess up and get killed," the clone said, glancing at Guy. "But don't you know that whatever the," Guy said, looking perplexed, before turning to face Kakashi and asking, "You didn't tell him?" Kakashi moaned to himself, understanding Guy's meaning. However, he pretended not to know and asked, "Tell him what?" Guy's eyes narrowed, revealing his seriousness. He stated, "You know what I'm talking about. The learning effect of the cage bunshin. Naruto has known that jutsu for what, 3 months, and you still haven't told him the learning effect. What are you guys fighting about?" the clone asked. Guy glanced at Kakashi and said, "The learning effect of the shadow clones. Whatever the shadow clone reads, sees, or hears is returned to the original person when the clone is dispelled. That would explain a lot of things. Anyway, thanks for telling me that, Guy. Sensei," the clone muttered as it turned to face the ground. Following its dissolution, the clone's remaining chakra and the conversation's memory returned to the original Naruto. Acknowledging his ignorance of his favorite jutsu, Naruto grinned to himself and muttered, "Jackpot." Naruto created 16 cage bunshin right away. He infused them all with vitality. The transformation jutsu was then performed by all but 1 cage bunshin. They became tiny, pebble-like objects. After picking them up, The clone who didn't henge vanished. Naruto received information from Cage Bunshin 10 minutes later. The Cage Bunshin was remembered dropping the Pebble Bunshin on the base's guards. The clone dispelled after dropping as many as it had. Until he had all the guards, Naruto kept doing the same thing. Naruto gave himself a small laugh. Hopefully, we can learn something about the security schedules from those Cage Bunshin who are clinging to the security guards. Naruto stopped thinking and went to sleep. Naruto began meeting the residents of the compound the following day. That night, he was able to henge into a lot of faces. Then he discovered they had just 20 minutes to eat. Naruto also required more food than they provided because of his increased metabolism. However, Naruto had to get by with what he had. He didn't even have to consume the food. In fact, he ate a senzu bean on the way there. They would feed a Saiyan for 10 days, just as they would feed a normal person. The issue was that he would get hungry again if he got into a heated argument and exerted himself excessively. He didn't feel hungry, though, because he hadn't gotten into a fight. He prayed that it would hold him through this mission, but he had a hunch it wouldn't. Naruto visited every class throughout the day. He would then put a Pebble Bunshin on a teacher to listen to everything they had to say. Bunshin's Pebble dispelled that night, providing Naruto with their information. Naruto grinned. He discovered the full security schedule with the help of his Pebble Bunshin. He took out his map of the area once they dispelled it. On the map, he indicated the locations of the security guards' posts. Naruto glanced at the map once more and noticed that some areas of the compound were forbidden. To search them, he sent 2 Cage Bunshin. To deliver the map to Guy and Kakashi, he created a second Cage Bunshin. They instructed the clone with the map to look for any defenses on the top of the building. The clone was then supposed to indicate their location on the map. After that, the 3 Cage Bunshin left, carrying out their duties. Naruto learned what was in the restricted areas after they dispelled it. The place had an armory crammed with swords, shuriken, and kunai. And there was armor. There was another locked room as well. The clone was unable to enter. Then Naruto created a second clone. He instructed the clone to board the next individual to enter the door. Henge into a pebble in the interim, though. He also remembered the shuriken volleys and kunai on the roof. However, they must have been costly because there were only 8. Naruto received the clone's memories the following evening. A guy was hopped on by the clone. It was discovered that the man was a box mover. He moved the boxes on wheels. The only useful item Naruto received was a Hydra symbol. Naruto learned a great deal over the course of the following 2 days. He discovered who was in charge of this branch of Golden Dragon operations. Regretfully, this one was led by 3 individuals. Before leaving their village, the 3 were all Junin. The fact that they were all from the Leaf Village is even worse. Tanbo Tobitaki, Shinobu Mifu, and Hamaki Mimura were in charge. Their Wind Country sector was led by Tanbo. Their settlement in Bird Country was ruled by Shinobu. The Rain Country sector was led by Hamaki. The Junin advised them to be alert after Naruto informed them of this. The mission might be blown to hell in a handbasket if they weren't careful. Naruto and the group were in the fortress cafeteria 6 days after arriving at the compound. They were discussing the strategy for demolishing their stronghold while seated in a circle on the ground. Naruto's eyes appeared glazed over as he spoke. That look was nothing new to the others. It was the expression on Naruto's face after he received information from a deposed Cage Bunshin. They also understood that he would remain silent until his mind had had time to process everything. He returned 5 seconds later. His voice was a whisper, "That's not good." The others turned to face him after hearing him say that. "Naruto, what happened?" asked Tenten. Naruto was saying, "One of my Cage Bunshin dispelled. The information is crazy." "What did the clone see?" asked Sasuke. Sighing, Naruto turned to face the ground and remarked, "My shadow clone saw someone I fought against in the octagonal ring." "What are you talking about? The guy said they were going to be killed. You sure that your clone didn't see someone who looks like him?" asked Sasuke, with a perplexed expression on his face. Naruto replied, "My clone saw him in the medical wing. We'll have to see for ourselves." Tenten replied, "The only way to do that is for one of us to get hurt." "Lee, punch me in the face," Naruto said, turning to face Lee. With a startled expression, Lee exclaimed, "What?" Naruto replied, "You have to try and break my jaw. You do that, and we'll have an excuse to go to the hospital. When I'm getting checked out, Lee can get past the doctor and check the medical wing and see for yourself." Lee directed ki to his left fist and said, "Okay." Then, just inches from Naruto's jaw, he delivered a punch that broke it. Naruto was then picked up by Sasuke and Tenten. Then, Lee followed them as they made their way to the medical wing. The doctor sighed as the two genin entered the room. What happened to him? He asked. With a small chuckle, Tenten remarked, sparring accident, broke his jaw. After that, the doctor began applying medical jutsu to Naruto's jaw. He didn't see Lee run past him to the rest of the wing because the jutsu was consuming all of his focus. He wouldn't have noticed Lee even if he had been watching. Lee checked everywhere while moving at breakneck speed. He discovered a locked door. For a brief moment, Lee halted his superspeed motion and directed energy into his index finger, creating a thin, tiny blade. Lee melted the lock with the thin blade. He hurried into the room after opening the door. All of their opponents in the octagonal ring were sleeping in that room. Lee hurried out of the room, coming back just long enough to check that the door was shut. Then he dashed to the closest restroom and remained there. He sensed his friend's signatures leaving the medical wing 5 minutes later. When they left the hospital, Naruto eating a senzu bean and mending his jaw, he joined them. What did you see? Asked Naruto. Lee stated, every opponent we faced. The initiation test was a sham. According to Naruto, they probably did it to test our fighting styles, and to see if we would use something that would single us out as spies. Sasuke replied, this isn't good. I used the Sharingan in my fight. I activated it by reflex and I only realized that the Sharingan was on after the fight. Lee was saying, I accidentally did the leaf whirlwind. I didn't call out the name of the attack though, and I hope that they didn't hear me. How bad is this, guys? Very bad. Naruto's eyes took on a glossed over expression. After that, he whispered, and it's about to get worse. What did you see? Asked Sasuke. Naruto said gravely, I saw those 3 assholes we fought at Kiano. Kenji, Ryu, and Toguro. They're by the restricted section. A couple days ago, I saw a Hydra symbol somewhere in there. Tenten murmured, you're right. It has gotten worse. What do you think it means? Naruto replied, I don't know, but I know that I was able to put a beetle cage bunshin on the guy who was the head of the R&D department when he came out for lunch. Hopefully I can connect some dots with the information I'll get tonight from that bunshin. Lee replied, we have to report this to Guy and Kakashi, sensei. Naruto replied, true, but we'll have to wait until tonight. There's too many people about during daylight. Naruto followed his instructions and created a cage bunshin to be sent to Kakashi later that evening. However, the cage bunshin he had in charge of the R&D division dispelled him before he could do so. Naruto uttered the word, shit, aloud upon realizing the issue. The life of Cage Bunshin. The head of this base's R&D department was lying on the head of the beetle Cage Bunshin. Albert Wesker was the man who was checking in on their most recent project. As yet, the Cage Bunshin had received no solid information. He only heard about the newest recruits' physical characteristics and the nutrient content of the food they served. Up until that afternoon, the majority of the items were useless. The clone overheard Wesker conversing with someone else that afternoon. Wesker replied, how are the new additions to the Hydra division coming? The individual who the clone assumed was in charge of their development stated, they're coming along nicely, Wesker.san. In 2 days, they'll be ready to be the new additions to the Hydra division. Wesker said, 2 days? Why that long, with narrowed eyes? The development manager replied, well, they already have enhancements, but it will take 2 days for them to take full effect. Over the 2 days, their enhancements will steadily grow until, in 48 hours, their enhancements will be completely manifested. Wesker replied, good. I suspect that there will be some use for them soon. In the Beetle Henge, the clone's eyes widened as much as they could. New members have joined the Hydra division. That is not at all good. In addition to Kenji, Ryu, Toguro, and the 3 missing Nin, there are 5 new individuals. At 11 on 11, the guys won't be good. Naruto then received its memories as the clone dispelled. They were impossible. He waited for the news while sending the Cage Bunshin to Guy and Kakashi. Naruto heard what the Cage Bunshin had to say when they dispelled. Guy stated, an army in training. 3 Junin level missing. Nin. 3 psychos with special abilities and 5 more on the way. We can't let them fight those guys alone. We have to tell them to abort the mission. Kakashi replied, we can't, Guy. The Suna trio are counting on us to help them get rid of this place. Naruto and Sasuke are already known by those 3 guys. If they are discovered, they could be killed. We can't let them go through with this, Guy said, becoming enraged. However, Kakashi stated, we still have to take that place down though. With a yell, Guy declared, we'll do it later. Right now, we have to get them out. Kakashi responded, yay we do. Tell the original Naruto they have to pull out. Naruto received the memories as the clone dissipated. Naruto began to move after reliving the life of the clones. He sent the 3 clones he had created to the other room. To get to the other people's rooms, the clones traveled at breakneck speed. Fortunately, the clones didn't have to travel far because they were all in the same hall. The genin was awakened by their explanation of the gravity of the situation. When Naruto gave the signal, they all agreed with him and made the decision to depart. After creating another clone, Naruto had it examine the guards. Fortunately, the clone was able to knock him unconscious because the guards weren't really paying attention. They had 3 hours to get out of there because the next shift wasn't starting until 3 hours later. Naruto flashed his chakra 3 times in rapid succession as he gave the signal. After receiving the message, the others began to flee their rooms. Together, they departed after meeting outside Naruto's room. Naruto was saying, "Lee, pick up Tenten. We have to leave right now. Sasuke, can you keep up?" According to Sasuke, "I'll have to." After that, Naruto said, "Then let's go." The 4 of them dashed for the door. The 4 genin twisted and turned through the corridors, barely avoiding the watchman who inspected people's rooms. An alarm went off 5 minutes after they left their rooms. With a curse, Naruto thought, "Shit. They must have discovered our absence. Or perhaps someone saw you and snitched," the Kyuubi said. The group heard Naruto say, "We have to move, we were found out." Sasuke had to direct his chakra to his legs in order to keep up with the 2 Saiyans as the 4 increased their speed. They believed they were free when they emerged, but they were suddenly thrown off balance. They fell forward and knocked one another down. A chuckle sounded, and the 4 genin rose, spun around, and positioned themselves in combat positions. They noticed a taller and shorter man there, dressed in black vests and black shirts underneath. They wore black sandals and black ninja pants. The head of a dragon was emblazoned on their headbands. The shorter man's black hair hung down to his neck, and he had a goatee. Like Kakashi, he also had a scar over his left eye. His hair was pulled back into a short ponytail on the taller man. There was also a single diagonal scar on the cheek of the taller man. When Sasuke saw the 2, he let out a curse. He replied, "Damn it. I thought we wouldn't run into you guys. Ryu and Kenji. Where's Toguro?" Ryu kept quiet about the new recruits because he was unsure of how much Naruto and the others knew. He stated, "He's teaching. He sent us here. We should be more than enough to handle you 4. "You so sure about that?" asked Naruto. With a grin, Kenji replied, "Yeah." Naruto replied, "We can flatten you 2 easily. Me and Sasuke did last time and we've only gotten stronger since then." Kenji replied, "And what do you think we've been doing? We've gotten upgrades since the last time we fought. By the way, I gotta thank you for showing how fast you were. Thanks to you, dumbass, they gave me a speed enhancement. I'm faster than you could ever believe." Naruto laughed as he said, "No matter how many upgrades you get, you'll never be as good as us. We wiped the floor with you punks easily. There's no way you can beat us. Wanna bet?" Ryu growled at them. "I'm taking Kenji. One of you guys get Ryu," Naruto declared. Then Naruto charged at Kenji. When Kenji saw him approaching, he started to head for Naruto. Kenji's right fist took the lead. To block, Naruto raised his left arm. Kenji's arm seemed to vanish out of thin air. A superpowered punch was then delivered to Naruto's stomach. Kenji's left arm was in his chest when he looked down. As Kenji briefly vanished once more, Naruto could only widen his eyes in surprise. Naruto felt as though he had been kicked in the head after Kenji vanished. The pain knocked Naruto back 10 feet. Naruto flipped in the air and got back up before he hit the ground. He turned to see Kenji grinning as he stood there. What the hell is up with that? Naruto asked himself. How in the world was he outpacing me? Naruto rose again and vanished. Phased out, he dashed in Kenji's direction. Kenji grinned and vanished once more. His fist was jutting out in midair when he reappeared. A second later, Naruto reappeared with Kenji's fist punching his face. After that, Kenji vanished and then resurfaced, knocking Naruto back once more. Naruto stood up again, still perplexed. Then Kenji moved in Naruto's direction and vanished. Kenji attempted to punch Naruto, but Naruto blocked the blow. Perceiving this as his sole advantage, Naruto used his free hand to punch Kenji before delivering an uppercut to his chin. Naruto twisted and kicked Kenji in the face with his heel while he was dazed, knocking him down 10 feet away. Then, Naruto exerted as much advantage as he could. He began firing countless ki blasts at Kenji after charging up ki in his hands. They began to explode as they struck, releasing a smokescreen. Naruto continued shooting into the smokescreen, hoping to hit Kenji, without slowing down. Naruto fired a supercharged ki blast after briefly shooting into the smokescreen and then cupping his hands together. With a massive explosion, the ki blast sailed forward. Underscore. With Lee and Sasuke. Which one of us fights him? Sasuke asked Lee after Naruto began fighting Kenji. Lee replied, you fight him. Whenever this Toguro douche decides to come out, I'll take him. With a shrug, Sasuke headed for Ryu. Ryu sent him a wall of chakra right away, unaware of the impending attack. Sasuke was knocked backwards. Remembering to switch on his Sharingan, Sasuke landed on the ground after performing a few backflips to recover before charging at Ryu once more. He watched as Ryu gathered chakra into another hand and pulled it back. Sasuke threw a kunai at Ryu after spotting the impending attack. 5 feet from Ryu, the kunai came to a halt and fell to the ground. Then Ryu burst out laughing. He replied, like that, now I can use my powers without using my hands. Ryu thrust his hand forward and blasted a wall of chakra at Sasuke, who swore. The Uchiha began performing hand seals after leaping over the wall. Sasuke had fallen to the ground as he completed the seals. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. He exclaimed, hitting the short Hydra member with 10 fireballs. After hearing Sasuke mention the jutsu's name, Ryu raised a shield to deflect the blow. The fiery balls of death were repelled by the shield. Thinking, I forgot he could do that, Sasuke swore. Ryu tried to knock Sasuke back, but he started running toward the chakra dome. When Sasuke finally reached the chakra dome, he began punching it. That's your plan? How stupid are you? Ryu said, laughing. Sasuke continued punching the dome without giving the midget any attention. When Sasuke realized that this was not working, he clenched his fists around ki and began striking the dome once more. He assumed that after a series of punches, something had to give. He was correct. Sasuke couldn't tell, but the dome was getting weaker with every punch he delivered. Ryu had to put more chakra on that area of the dome ever since he began punching in order to restore what Sasuke had destroyed. Sasuke was weakening the dome more quickly than Ryu could fortify it when he began incorporating ki into his punches. With a mental command, Ryu focused his chakra and pushed Sasuke back before he destroyed the dome by forcing a wall of chakra. Ryu began to reinforce the dome after Sasuke was knocked back. Sasuke ran at Ryu once more, hurling ki blasts at his dome after realizing that was a lost cause. Despite the explosions, the dome remained intact. Sasuke made another attempt but was unable to complete it. Ryu created sword-shaped chakra blades and sent them to Sasuke just as he was about to launch another volley. Sasuke jumped over the attacks and cursed. After giving Ryu a quick glance, Sasuke asked, "Is that the best you got?" When Ryu laughed, he replied, "No, I got a lot more." Sasuke felt something stab him in the back, leaving him with little time to think about what he was about to do. His eyes widened in agony, and he fainted. He had been stabbed in the back by Ryu, who had returned with the chakra swords. As soon as Lee saw Sasuke fall, he rushed to his aid. In order to reduce the amount of blood leaking out, he took Sasuke and placed him on his stomach. Lee scowled at Ryu and squinted his eyes. He concluded by saying, "Now you have to deal with me." "Oh really? How will this fight be different from the one I was just in?" Ryu asked with his trademark chuckle. "Because unlike Sasuke," said Lee. Lee phased out, so Ryu didn't hear him finish. With his hand around Ryu's neck, Lee reappeared behind Ryu. Ryu was raised into the air by him. Then he completed his statement. He stated, "I won't lose any sleep over killing you." Ryu skidded on the ground after Lee threw him to his left. When Ryu got to his feet, he discovered that Lee had once more lost his mind. He threw up a chakra dome so he wouldn't be choked again. Ryu was terrified when Lee materialized in front of the chakra dome. Lee damaged the chakra dome by punching it with his retracted fist. Lee continued to punch the dome, causing increasing damage. "Didn't your friend already try that?" Ryu asked, laughing. Lee's eyes narrowed in rage, but then he had a thought. "So you want to see something new, huh?" he asked with a sly smile. After leaping back, Lee began backflipping to put more distance between himself and Ryu. Then Lee began to focus, summoning the force he had found days before. Lee grunted and summoned the strength of false Super Saiyan to force the transformation. However, something had changed. He had a different aura for some reason. It had a more intimidating appearance. Though not entirely present, Super Saiyan's fiery aura was more noticeable. It seemed as though Lee had partially unlocked Super Saiyan's power. Additionally, his hair was blowing more, as if there was a greater force at work. His muscles bulged more, too. Although Lee felt the power draining from him, he ignored it. Lee noticed that Ryu was perspiring a little. Lee laughed and replied, "What's the mat, Ryu? You did say that you wanted to see something different, didn't you? It doesn't matter what form you take. You'll never defeat me," Ryu said, giving Lee a fierce look. Lee grinned and said, "Never say never." Then, with greater speed than before, Lee vanished. With Tenten. Prior to Lee entering Sasuke's battle, Tenten watched the fights from the sidelines. She was on the verge of jumping in when Lee told her, "Don't. I'm sorry to say this, Tenten, but you'll only get hurt out there. These guys are too strong for you to take on." Tenten replied, "What do you mean, too strong for me? You guys are fighting them, I can too." "No, Tenten, you can't," Lee said. Tenten began examining the fights to see which one she could assist in after glancing at Lee and saying, "Why? Because I'm a girl. I am so tired of people thinking I'm weak because I'm not a guy. That's just stupid." Lee grasped her by the shoulders and said, "Listen to me, it's not because you're a girl. It's because you don't know how to do the things the three of us can do. If you don't know them, then you'll only die out there. I'm your friend Tenten, and I care for you. I'm not gonna let you go out there and get yourself killed." Just as Tenten was about to tell Lee to get lost, she noticed something in his eyes. She could see how worried he was. He was keeping her out of the fights because he didn't want to see her get hurt. Lee replied, "If you really want to help us, Tenten, stay over here and stay alive." Sasuke was bleeding from his back when Lee turned to watch him fight. In order to help Sasuke, Lee ran over there. Tenten was only able to watch Lee battle Ryu while blushing slightly. She realized that Lee had changed while she was witnessing his altercation with Ryu. When he first met Naruto, he changed completely. He no longer blindly followed Guy. He was less obnoxious. He began to behave less like a follower and more like a leader. And she kind of liked it, as much as she hated to admit it. She mentally supported Lee as she watched his fight with Ryu. She gasped when she saw him change. Naruto's metamorphosis during that tournament weeks ago was similar to that. The aura flared out more, she noticed. She noticed that his lavender hair began to blow more. She also noticed his muscles protruding. The muscles in his chest threatened to tear his muscle shirt to shreds. He looks amazing in that. What did I just think, I wonder? The muscle shirt doesn't make him look attractive. Taking it off would make him look hotter. Hold on, what? As Tenten watched Lee battle Ryu, she was struggling with her feelings. With Lee. Ryu was startled when Lee reappeared behind him. Lee vanished once more. Ryu was frightened once more when he reappeared and punched the dome. After Ryu strengthened his dome, Lee struck it once more on the other side. Lee would scare Ryu by punching another point each time Ryu fortified a different section of the dome. Anger filled Ryu's heart. "I'm being played with by this wet behind the ears genin. I will demonstrate to him that I am not a plaything." Using it as his push attack in a spherical blast, Ryu then focused and yelled, pushing his dome out. The dome was pushed out just as Lee was ready to strike it, trapping Lee in the blast as Ryu had intended. Lee was knocked back toward Tenten by the force of the push. He got back up and ran in Ryu's direction. Ryu aimed chakra knives at Lee with his hands. When Lee saw his hand move, he flinched away from the blades and reappeared at Ryu's right. Ryu sent a wall at Lee with his hand. Lee avoided the attack with ease. Ryu was pushed backwards by Lee, who was 3 feet away. Where the hell did that come from? Lee asked himself as he stood back up. Lee felt something stab him in the left arm before he had time to think about that question. Ryu laughed in his usual way. He stated, "I realized something. The only way you were able to dodge my attacks was because I was using my hands to do them. Now that I'm using my mind, you can't see them coming." After being stabbed in the right leg, Lee was unable to move. Pain shot up Lee's spine as he felt another blade enter his right arm. Another blade was aimed at his left leg, but Lee didn't see it. A shout of Uchiha's duplicity cut Ryu off as he was ready to send it. Ryu turned to see Sasuke standing to his right. A tiny red ball of ki was moving between the two as Ryu pondered why Sasuke had screamed out Uchiha's duplicity. It was too late for Ryu to notice the small red dot. He could have been within 5 feet of the explosion by that point. When the attack exploded, a massive explosion and a lot of dirt were kicked up. However, the attack was successful. It burned the front of Ryu's body after knocking him 20 feet away. He was knocked unconscious after being blasted backwards into the building's side. The strain of using that attack and the pain in his back were too much for Sasuke, who smirked and muttered, "Payback's a motherfucker, ain't it?" before passing out. With Naruto. Naruto had a tiny glimmer of hope as the smoke cleared, thinking that Kenji's lifeless body would be there. But that ray was deceiving. Kenji was standing there without any scratches when the smokescreen cleared. Laughing uncontrollably, Kenji asked. Was that supposed to stop me? Naruto was so shocked that his eyes widened. How did you dodge all those attacks? He stumbled out. Kenji laughed and said, how I did it was easy. One of the augmentations I got allows for it. I can force my body to move up to 40x faster for a short period of time, making your attacks move at a snail's pace. And now that I'm faster than you, and stronger, there's no way you can win. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto uttered, we'll see. Kenji ran toward Naruto as he charged him. Kenji's lightning fast movements were too fast for Naruto's eyes to follow. Kenji was only a fraction of a second away from them. He threw a kick, but Naruto blocked it and punched him across the jaw in return. Kenji took a second blow to the chest from Naruto. After deflecting the blow, Kenji vanished and then reappeared with his foot in Naruto's face. After being knocked back, Naruto used his levitation ability to get his bearings. Damn it, Naruto thought. I can't keep up with him anymore. What on earth am I meant to do? If I am unable to get a hit in, power is meaningless. Kenji was sprinting toward Naruto at super speed. Naruto barely avoided Kenji's punch as he raised himself to the sky. Then Naruto lowered himself as Kenji went by. He countered with a knee to the stomach after blocking the punch Kenji threw at him. Kenji was kneeling in agony when Naruto grabbed him by the waist. Kenji was raised into the air by Naruto. Naruto moved Kenji so that he was beneath him and lifted him above the clouds. Then, as quickly as he could, Naruto began to fly toward the ground. Naruto continued to dash to the ground, ignoring Kenji's blows. Naruto closed his eyes as he drew closer, preparing for the blow. Kenji took the full force of the blow when it came. Naruto shot them 10 feet into the ground because he was moving so quickly. From the ditch, Naruto flew away. He cupped his hands by his right hip and spread his legs. Ka. Me. Ha. Me. Ha. Naruto began chanting as he charged the blast with power. The blast illuminated the ditch and the night sky as it flew down it. Naruto, panting, stopped the attack after using up 20% of his power. He had blood dripping from his face, his stomach, and his arm. He was bleeding almost everywhere he was struck. Though he knew he couldn't rest just yet, he felt as though he couldn't move another step. He was searching for the others when he noticed Tenten caring for Sasuke and a wounded Lee. What happened? Naruto asked them as he flew down to them. Tenten was saying, that short guy with the goatee almost killed them, that's what happened. Naruto felt a tiny prick on his back just as he opened his mouth to speak. When he turned around, a small army of people was waiting to engage them in combat. If we stay here, they'll finish what Ryu and Kenji started. We gotta get the fuck out of here, Naruto said, turning back to Tenten. Focusing, Naruto raised a key shield to keep the four safe. They were surrounded by the army as they began to run at the shield. They all began hammering at the shield after taking kunai and other weapons out of the armory. Raising his voice, Naruto asked, Lee, can you fly? He muttered, damn, we don't have a lot of time. With a feeble laugh, Lee replied, yep. Naruto walked over and picked up Sasuke, saying, good. You take Tenten, I'll take Sasuke. We'll heal you too when we get free. As Naruto put it, let's go. Lee followed Naruto as he dropped the shield and flew into the sky. The rest of the world was left wondering how they managed to escape. After 10 minutes Naruto and Lee landed at the location where they first encountered the Suna trio 10 minutes after they had escaped. They wandered for a few minutes and eventually located them. Everyone began to panic when they saw Sasuke and Lee's condition. Everyone shut up! Exclaimed Naruto. Except for Sakura, everyone fell silent. She exclaimed, Sasuke-kun, Naruto, you monster. You just couldn't accept the fact that Sasuke-kun loved me. You're always in the way of my love. You probably killed him, you demon. Hoping that I would run to you. If Sasuke-kun dies, I promise I'll kill you. Ignoring Sakura, Naruto put Sasuke down and removed a pouch from his belt. Senzu beans were visible when Naruto opened the pouch. He gave one to Lee and put another in Sasuke's mouth. Then he consumed one for himself. He was instantly healed by the Senzu bean's power. He watched as Lee began to stand up more and more, appearing stronger than before. He also witnessed Sasuke take a deep breath and sit up from his near-death experience. Sakura ran up to him after he heard her yell, Sasuke-kun, but was tripped by a stray strand of sand that appeared out of nowhere. Gaara had a halo over his head and was whistling naively. Despite his shock, Neji managed to say, what the hell happened out there? According to Naruto, those three bastards from Kiano were there. We only fought two of them. The short one, Ryu, got Sasuke in the back with something. He must have gotten Lee with them too, because Lee's wounds looked the same. As Tamari put it, but you said you defeated them before. According to Naruto, we did. We didn't kill them though, the bitches ran before we could deliver the final blow. Worse, they got upgrades. How bad are the upgrades? Asked Kankuro. According to Naruto, at first, one of them, Kenji, was stronger than me. The way I defeated him was because I was faster. Now, I'm stronger than him. But he has some weird speed thing he does. He said that he forces his body to move at super speeds. He's gotten so fast I can barely tell where he goes. Sasuke was saying, that Ryu guy. Before, he could only use his powers when he used his hands. Now he can do it just with his mind. The only reason I'm not dead is because I can see the attacks with my Sharingan. Lee stated, these guys aren't anything to take lightly. We didn't see the Toguro guy, but he must have gotten stronger like the others. Also, there's 5 other people with medical enhancements. They're gonna be ready in 2 days. Tamari responded, well then, we'll just have to attack before then. I agree. We can't wait. Gaara said. Guy stated, we attack tomorrow night. Sasuke, can you get rid of those kunai turrets on the roof? Sure, said Sasuke. Can you try to destroy the place where they're holding the new Hydra recruits? Kakashi asked, turning to face Lee. Lee replied, I can. But I think that they'll increase security there since we just broke out of there. As Naruto put it, Kakashi, that won't be any good. Then Kakashi narrowed his eyes and turned to face Naruto. He was constantly hampered by that black-haired Uchiha imposter. He now believed that there was a problem with Kakashi's plan. Why wouldn't it be any good? Asked Kakashi. Naruto glared at Kakashi after catching sight of her eyes. He could sense the rage behind Kakashi's scowl and knew that Kakashi still harbored the same naive animosity toward him as before. He tried to put Kakashi's constant attempts to ruin his shinobi career behind him, even though he didn't like it. Although he was prepared to pardon Kakashi for his previous actions, he would never regard Kakashi as a sensei. However, Kakashi's continued animosity toward him made it difficult for Naruto to refrain from retrieving that hatchet and removing Kakashi's head along with it. Naruto stated, the head of the Hydra development said that they already have their enhancements and that the enhancements will grow to fruition in 48 hours. If we attack tomorrow, they'll still be ready. Also, Kenji and Ryu said that Toguro was teaching. Who do you think he was teaching? Guy replied, this isn't good. What will we do? Kankuro replied, isn't it obvious? We go in there and kick their asses. Naruto looked around and replied, okay, now we'll have to decide our opponents. With the 5 new recruits, there's 11 of them, and there's 11 of us. We don't know their abilities, so we'll have to assume the worst. Me, Sasuke, and Lee will take Kenji, Ryu, and Toguro. We've faced 2 of them before and we're best suited to. What about the other 8 guys? I can take Tanbo Tanbataki and Shinobu Mifu, Kakashi was told. Guy replied, that's good. I'll take one of these new guys and Himaki Mimura. What about the other 4 new guys? Lee responded, Gaara, Kankuro, Tamari, Tenten, Neji, and Sakura. Can you guys take those 4 new guys or hold them off until we can help you? According to Gaara, we'll have 2. Sasuke replied, good. After I take out those kunai turrets on the roof, I'll take Ryu. Tamari responded, Naruto, didn't you also say that there's an armory there? Yeah, what about it? Said Naruto. Tamari replied, I think we should blow that place up before we do anything. If we keep their weapons intact, they'll use them against us. We destroy them, we won't have to deal with bandits with weapons. Naruto replied, that's right. I'll destroy the armory while Sasuke takes out the kunai turrets. Sasuke replied, yeah. And me and Lee will start to cause property damage until the Hydra come out. Naruto replied, good. We'll blow the place to hell after we take out the Hydra. That's gonna be my favorite part, Lee said with a smile. With a slight smile, Tenten replied, yeah. Hopefully you'll be alive to participate in it. Hopefully, Lee said. Guy replied, good, now everyone to bed. We'll need full strength for the fight tomorrow night.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.